How's it going, everyone, and welcome to another episode of No Excuses on VTWProductions.com and YouTube.com with your favorite show hosts, Aristil.
Fenarian.
And Volosel, and we're here yet again to bring you our latest news and commentary on the video games industry for the week, such as it was, which may or may not contain much content, considering most of the news this week was pretty banal. But if you'd like to get involved with the show, you can do so by sending us email at noexcusesvtw@gmail.com, or you can follow us on the Twitter at noexcusesvtw, or you can join us in our Discord server, which you can easily get to by clicking on the link that will be provided in the show archive on YouTube in the description. That will take you directly to our Discord server where you can chat with the show hosts and other listeners to the show.
Yes, indeed. So, on the stream today, I'm going to be playing a bit of Endless Space 2, and I'm just debating who to actually play as. I could play as Horatio.
But didn't you do Horatio last time? Last time
I did Horatio. Hang on, no, last time I did the trees. Time before that, I think it was Horatio. You know, this time I might play the Vujani, whose gimmick is they fly around in giant spaceships and visit habited worlds where they then convert the populace to their various religious dogmas, then grind them into a fine powder and snort them.
I think you should play the one with the super fat lizard lady.
Oh, the booby lizard. I could play the booby lizard, but I think she's better to have as an AI. You got the Cravers, who, let's face it, they look like a Digimon. Their whole thing is they eat planets.
I thought those were antagonists.
They are. Or the Sophons, who are a race of accident-prone science nerds. There's the trees. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to snort the galaxy. Let's do that.
It's the best use for it.
Yes. And who don't I have? Unfallen, Griftborn, got Horatio. There we go. That's two of the booby lady. Well, whatever. Just be random. So, we can just dive straight into it. This week has been rather banal, I think, along all axes.
But Fern, you were going to have so much more free time.
Yeah, that didn't happen, because as soon as I get free time, something always jumps up to eat it.
It took maximum fake boobies and Sloot to get your attention.
You filled my... Well, you don't say you filled it, but there was sufficient thottery going on in my Discord stream. It was kind of hard to ignore it.
I was profoundly disturbed by what I bore witness to.
Unbelievably so, yes.
That was the point, yes.
Although I am tempted to go into PSO2 and spend 30 million Meseta on the fake boobies, then strap them to my robot.
Please do.
Does that work?
It does.
They're a gender-neutral accessory.
So do with that information as you would.
Just wait till you see the people that have figured out how to make them hairy.
Ah!
That's definitely a thing that I just heard and wished that I hadn't.
Let us not then, shall we? Let's just move on. So, yeah, I'll be playing a bit of Endless Space. Let's just, inhale the universe. As far as my week goes, kept poking along with the Digimons and stuff like that. I think I've run out of content for it for the moment, though. I finished all the movies, and that had the bittersweet ending that was always going to have to happen.
Yep. I don't remember the ending of the last movie, actually. I remember they won, and then it was not a super win for everybody, but everybody could live with it, and then that was the end.
I don't think of children's shows as ending generally. Like, even if they've got a nominal end, it's never really an end. Like, they're always going to bring the franchise back sooner or later.
Well, the next series,
Ash Ketchum's Pokemon journey continues, I'm sure.
Yeah, but Ash doesn't age, like ever. If anything, he's gotten younger.
Ash was like 10 when I was 12.
He's still 10.
And I am now 30, and Ash is still 12, or 10.
Yeah.
No, he's 11. He had a birthday.
Oh, he had a birthday, but he's still 10.
Oh, he did? Okay, making sure. Just so we know how this all goes.
It makes as much sense as you'd think it does. Yeah, I've kind of hit the end of the anime. The Try movies are still good. There's no surprises there, really, though.
Leomon dies again.
Spoilers, Leomon dies. I did have a bit more success now that I've got my head around how the new Digimon World game goes, and I actually got a genuine anime moment out of it, which was fun. There's a mechanic in the game it doesn't actually tell you about. So I was in a really tough fight, down to one enemy Digimon, and got both my guys KO'd. And I was expecting, your character kind of just stands around looking sad for 5 minutes, and then it kicks you back to town. I don't know why they did it that way. Like, the character will say something and then just stands there looking sad before eventually walking over. And then being sad at the, whatever Digimon side that fell over. So,
Pokemon Center.
He did that, and instead of getting the sad music that kicks you back to town, I got the theme music. And suddenly everything's jumping up and down, and it's you ended up with what they call an EXE Digi-Evolution. Which is basically, they merge. Your Digimon merge.
That's gross.
So the DNA digivolved.
So I ended up with Imperial Dramon running around. I will tell you though, I wasn't actually aiming for it, but I got Leomon in the game.
Okay.
And he dies every opportunity.
Of course he does.
He does. So that's a thing. He's not supposed to.
It's in the contract.
It is.
He probably has a hidden passive, like, draws aggro from everything.
It does. Like, he's not... Well, he is a bit squishier because he's a champion level where my other ones are a mega. But,
Well, it doesn't matter what level the Leomon is. If it's in the Leomon line, it dies.
Yeah. It's kind of what he do. As far as other stuff I did this day, I mean, picking away at Kenshi again with some mods, and that's gone about as well as it usually does.
Why?
Maybe because I like watching people suffer.
You mean you like suffering? Also,
yes. Oh, hang on. I'm not going to play these guys because these guys actually require thought. So I'm just going to go back to...
oh, you need some thought. I think I got some pictures.
No, thought, not thought. Damn it. Yeah, so that's been a fun experience. I spent more time than I would have liked trying to set up a base in a place where I was constantly under attack by weird fishmen.
Mm-hmm.
And every time, if one of my characters or one of my villagers or minions, whatever, went down, they would grab them, run away, and eat them in the fog. So that was fun.
I see.
I will be Horatio.
You can't resist the call of Horatio.
Nobody can. And I'll make the humans pink because reasons.
Everyone knows humans are pink. Ask any child.
Yeah. As for Kenshi though, given the age of the game, and it's not even the mods that do it, that game requires a lot of system resources. Like, it will chug unless you have a decent amount of RAM.
Well, those types of games tend to be performing a lot of calculations pretty much constantly.
Oh yeah. In the case of Kenshi, it's simulating the whole world at a time. Or at least bits of it.
They've got to make sure that they've worked out all of the prime peeling locations.
Yeah, and usually the case of Kenshi is how can we screw over the player? I know! We will find his new town, and we will sick a bunch of crab-worshipping fanatics at it. Who are running into your base, trying to just kill your people, saying, crab him. And making just crab puns in general.
They're going to crab you?
They are going to crab me. Granted, their crabs fully grown are about the size of a large bus.
So it's generally a good idea to worship them.
Yeah, you worship the crabs or you get eaten by the crabs. There is no other choice.
Fern, I've been trying to help you out in your Discord DMs, by the way.
I've
Why
got
would
so
you?
many things on my screen. What have you linked me? No, damn it, be
Horrible,
gone!
sure.
he's just filled my Discord with thoughts, or
Why
one
would you do
thought
that?
in particular.
His personal handcrafted thought, who I said looks like she has a tapeworm.
No,
No,
it's
not that thought.
it-
This is the thought from Fate.
I see.
So
I had to submit my master of
You-
thoughterry.
nobody wants you, Maeve. Go away.
I think probably Kiara would fight Maeve over that.
Well, who's the biggest thought?
Yeah.
Maeve was there first in the FGO anyway.
Yeah.
Not in the Fate universe, but in FGO.
She wasn't there at first in the Fate universe, and she didn't actually try and put the entire planet there.
Oh, right. That's a thing, wasn't it? There's some things you just want to purge from your memory, and that's one of them.
Yeah.
There's teeth in there.
Pretty high tier thottery.
Yeah. So, what the only other thing I can really talk about for my week is I sat down and watched a little bit of Thunderbolt Fantasy, which is something I've been meaning to do for a while.
Well, that's the puppetry one, right?
Yeah, with Urabucha. The Urabucha, rather. Ken Urabuchi. So I watched his little preamble about it, and it seems like he's genuinely into it as a kind of a labour of love type project. So I watched the first episode, and it was fantastic. It's ridiculously bombastic. It's basically pure eye candy, and I can't watch it.
What, you live in the wrong country or something?
No, it's got the same issue that Blood Battle Blockade has, where there's just so much going on, you get sensory overload.
I feel like that's thematically appropriate for Blood Blockade Battlefront,
Yeah,
given that sensory overload is sort of like the gimmick.
it is the
But,
thing. Let's just get rid of the tutorials.
yeah, I've heard exclusively good things about Thunderbolt Fantasy.
Yeah, I want to watch more. Like when the characters just kind of standing around talking, it's very much Thundercats style type dealy because puppets.
New Thundercats.
No, that exists. Oh, now I'm sad. So now that you've ruined my childhood by reminding me of that, yeah. So everything's very stiff and wooden when everyone's standing around and just talking, but when they're actually fighting, and the anime series opens on a fight scene, which is just ridiculously over the top, and it's fantastic, and I love it. But I think it might be just because my general mode of watching anime these days is to stick an episode or two on my tablet and watch it in bed before I go to sleep. And Thunderbolt Fantasy, you need to pay attention to. Like, if you're trying to watch it out of the corner of your eye or multitask or whatever, you're just going to miss everything.
I see.
So, I will highly recommend it, but I think I need to generally work at actually watching this one.
Work at watching. Just hearing that hurts.
It means I need to actually pay attention. Rather than just kind of absorb the information by osmosis like I do for most anime. Because, I tend to watch a lot of shonen, and you don't need to pay attention to shonen very much.
You can fill in the gaps pretty easily.
Yeah, it's like, though the villain's here, okay, they'll be talking for the next half hour. So, beyond that, that's been basically my week. I keep it short, I usually do. Although,
Alright.
it's been Black Friday sales, hasn't it?
Yeah, kind of.
I haven't even thought about it. Like,
Yeah.
they've all finished, I think, in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Black
But,
Friday is actually what would normally be Black Friday would be the 27th.
Yeah.
Yeah, they always have it earlier in countries
Yeah.
that don't actually have Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Yeah. And ever since online became a thing, Black Friday becomes Black November.
It basically becomes Black November. Like, I've been seeing various promotions and things for all sorts of stuff since the start of the month.
Yep.
And then once the Black Friday stuff finishes rather, it is immediately superseded by Cyber Monday, which will usually go for another week. So, shopping season, everyone. Yay.
Yeah, I don't think I need anything. That's the issue.
Yeah, I really am at a loss for what to do during the sales. I don't need anything, so I don't want to buy anything.
Yeah. How would the massive sales and things be going over in the States with the coof anyway?
Depends on where you live.
Yeah, there are a lot of places which I expect have hit the point of coup fatigue where they just don't care anymore.
Yeah, I think they've just stopped. They've given up caring in a lot of places.
There's a very popular video going around right now of some business owners running the cops out of their store when they come to enforce the coup. I posted it in our politics thread if you want to see it.
I don't see how this hasn't been like proper elevated to the United States Supreme Court and just struck down. No, you can't actually curtail people's freedom to assemble, because I'm pretty sure that that's protected in the United States.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't. It's been struck down in every Supreme Court it winds up in, but it just never has made it to the big Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose that you know, in those places where the courts are complicit with the movement restriction way of thinking, they're probably striking it down and then not enforcing the fact that it has been struck down, because they know that if it gets elevated all the way to the top, then it's going to set precedent that they can't undo.
Yep. You're seeing this in places like Michigan, where actually in Michigan now they're trying to impeach Whitmer, and they're being actually making success at it. Her lockdown has gotten too draconian.
You know, she was clearly going to go mad with power, though. You could see that from very early on.
Yeah. So her legislature has filed articles of impeachment that are seriously like 3 pages long, just on the titles of the accusations. That's the table of contents.
Oh, that's fun.
Just from COVID lockdown. They don't have anything else on her other than BS she pulled for COVID lockdown. So it really depends on where you live in the U.S.
Well, the thing is, COVID lockdowns really do cut pretty close to a lot of the things that the United States is supposed to hold sacred. So,
yeah.
Yeah. Most I can really say on that is we had another rather nasty scare over the week in South Australia.
Nasty
scare. I even heard of it. Well, the nasty scare is not the coof. The nasty scare is what the state will do in response to the coof.
Yes, which was draconian lockdown immediately. Shut it all down. Fun's over. You're done. Turns out, that somebody lied along the way. And
no, really? People tell lies?
I know, right? The person who's actually got the coof turned out to have lied. So the coof outbreak wasn't nearly as widespread as it was expected to be. So it was a happy ending, I guess. The lockdowns got terminated. Or being terminated, I should say.
Thank goodness Hachima can't handle it much longer.
I'm assuming she's in Melbourne.
In South Australia, because nobody's in South Australia.
Yeah.
What's the capital of South Australia? Is that where Adelaide is? I don't even remember.
That's Adelaide. Honestly, the only reason people remember South Australia is because they blew up all their electric power plants before they were ready to and had blackouts. That's South Australia.
Well, they didn't even wait for Bill Shorten to ruin their power grid?
Nope, they ruined it themselves.
That's proactive, that is.
I know, right? And this is the new world we live in. So, where were we, Vaughn? Your week?
My week? Oh, man, I didn't do much this week. The Christmas rerun was a short rerun in FGO, and it finished rather after, I think, 8 days.
That was
I basically just blitzed it, got it out of the way, and then went back to Beat Week, which is where we are now. Following up on that, they released the prologue for Chapter 3 of Cosmos and the Lost Belt, which is basically the story of the Chaldea refugees getting established in their new base in the Wandering Sea, and a lot of things that for some reason go not commented on whatsoever, like Scion saying that she's been living off blood packs and nobody actually commenting on that at all, which
I
seems like
see.
something that you should probably comment on, especially seeing this particular version of Scion should not have become a dead apostle. I don't think. The story is rather complicated for like she's probably got the most complicated and nuanced set of different alternative selves of most of the characters, because she's sort of like a pseudo but not quite side character most of the time when she appears, and every single one of her incarnations, or her deceased twin sister, depending on which world you're in, because the extraverse Eltnams are all her twin sister, and the mainline universe and FGO universe are Scion, except in the main Tsukihime universe, she ascends to be the leader of Atlas, and in the FGO universe, humanity gets wiped out and she never does. But yeah, I'm not quite sure what's going on there. Don't know whether they'll go into it or not, but waiting for next Lost Belt chapter coming out. Looking forward to it. People have very mixed opinions on this one. Most popular opinion, though, is that it doesn't have all that much gravity for most people because Chinese history doesn't carry a lot of weight with most people, because it's largely been replaced by fictionalized accounts thanks to the Chinese classics, and generally speaking, there just aren't that many people who are that clued in on the history at all. Like, I know almost none of it, and I am half Chinese.
Yeah.
I'm still interested to see what they do with it, but it's not the grand event Lost Belt. I guess it's the last of the sort of the entry prologue type Lost Belts, because things really start to take off around the India Lost Belt in terms of scale. But did I do any other video this week? I'll let Ari talk about the Genshin Impact event, since I barely touched it. I haven't had the time. And everything in Genshin Impact is characterized by the need for an excessive amount of time. So
or resin.
Or resin.
Well,
or
yeah.
both.
Or dollars.
Or dollars.
Dollars is also an option if you're so inclined.
They do like their Dollaritos.
Indeed. But yeah, I did poke a tiny bit at the event, but not enough to actually say anything much about it. So I suppose the one notable thing that I did this week was I went to see the Third Heavens Feel movie at the cinema. I went to the good cinema, the one with good seats that don't hurt your backside or make it itch, like some of the crappier cinemas around the place. I went to the one which has recliners in every cinema, and I accidentally sat too far back in the cinema because I underestimated how small that particular screen is. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, but I think it suffers the most of the three parts from being viewed independently from the other two, because I didn't have time to rewatch the first two movies before going in to see the third one, and it left me with an overwhelming impression that this whole movie is kind of incoherent if not viewed immediately after the second one. Because it's sort of they leave it hanging at a dramatic point that makes a good cliffhanger in the second part, but it doesn't pick up very strongly after the fact in the third part. But overall, I felt like it was a reasonable expression of Heaven's Feel. Like my general level of optimism for the interpretation of Heaven's Feel in a movie was never very high, and the main reason for that is simply that it's a very broody wordy story. Like most of the characters spend most of their time brooding over the events that happen after they happen, and that's the bulk of the runtime is what everybody thinks about what just happened.
Okay.
That's how it works in the visual novel. It's very, very wordy. Anybody who's read it will tell you that it is ridiculously long.
Yes.
So most of that stuff has to be trimmed in a movie context, obviously. And generally speaking, they do it well, but there are a few times where it's clear that the visual novel was relying on the fact that you knew what everyone was thinking when a given event happens in order for it to make sense. And in the movie, you don't necessarily know that because the characters won't always just come right out and tell you what they're thinking because it's a movie format. You just don't do that in a movie. And so you end up with these odd circumstances where they couldn't bring themselves to do a walk in a circle in the church info dump, so they just sort of left it up to the viewer to fill in the gaps. But there's not really a lot of mortar to patch those holes with because the original material was so wordy. There was so much material there to draw from, and that's really not the case. So a lot of things don't have the sort of gravity that they might, and partly that's due to the time scale. I feel like the length is all right. It's not just suffering from being abbreviated. I don't think it's quite that simple. It's just that things don't have as much gravity if you don't know that the characters in question have been obsessing over this for like the past several hours worth of reading, sort of thing.
Well, and you got the player, when you're reading it, going through and having to sit through all those wordy words and actually sitting with all that stuff in your brain, juggling around for many, many, many hours before stuff pays off.
Yeah, and like I said, it's a very brooding story. Like what gives much of what happens its sort of emotional and dramatic weight is the fact that you are compelled by length of writing to brood alongside the characters who are brooding on any given topic before the concluding events will play out. So it's just an ineradicable fact of the type of material that has been adapted that you can't do it perfectly. However, what they have done was extremely good. I have to say that it does lean most heavily on the sheer chops that UFO Table have when it comes to dramatic combat scenes.
Yeah,
because they do that again really well. It's only in Heaven's Feel that you, and this is I don't know whether it's intentional or retroactively intentional because it's hard to tell sometimes with Type Moon, but they it is canonically fact that even at her most powerful, Saber holds back because she's not quite ruthless, even though she would like to think of herself as ruthless. When she's in her alter form, she is ruthless. She uses every scrap of power that she's got to put the opponent down, and you see that on full display every time she fights throughout the Heaven's Feel trilogy. Is that when Saber Alter is fighting, she is just a league ahead of Arturia Pendragon at her best when she's normal Arturia. Because she's just not holding back. She's giving everything she's got all the time. So it leads to very, very spectacular Dragon Ball Z levels of auras and beams and fire going everywhere. But I think the most remarkable of the fight scenes in this one for visual flair is definitely the one near the end between Medusa and Saber Alter, and that's simply because you never at any other point in the Fate trilogies, in the three roots, you never see Medusa fighting at full tilt, except in this one instance. This is the one time that you get to see her give everything. She's always gets wrecked in every other scenario.
a lot of
usually
times,
unceremoniously.
yeah, a lot of the ones I've actually seen is she not only gets wrecked unceremoniously, but usually she gets wrecked off screen.
She does kind of in not Heaven's Feel, in Unlimited Blade Works. She just kind of gets owned.
Oh, she gets
we-
completely destroyed in UBW.
Yeah, and what you see of her is unimpressive, and that's sort of deliberate in a way, is to sort of keep it behind the veil, just exactly who she is and what the significance of that is. And even when she does have a fight in the Fate route, it's against Artoria, and she doesn't really know what she's dealing with.
It's
and she
just
makes
two laser
very-
beams at the end, basically, ain't it?
She makes very poor combat decisions because she's engaging in a fight at the discretion of a terrible master with very little raw power behind her, because she's being her powers basically being curtailed by the Book of the False Attendant and Shinji's general incompetence, and as such she just does stuff in a lackadaisical fashion without really very much commitment, and she doesn't know who she's dealing with. She goes into her final battle with Saber Alter in Heaven's Feel with both eyes open, literally, so you get to see her actually use the Cybele as a real combat asset.
Is it Cybele or Cybele?
I don't think it matters because there's nobody from the Minoan civilization still alive.
Okay, because I've always heard it pronounced Cybele. It could
Like,
be either. I don't know.
The Minoan civilization is extremely ancient, and there is literally nobody left alive who has any blood from them. So, it's whichever scholar you can find. I've never actually heard it pronounced, so I don't really know or care. But you'd have to find a scholar who actually knows how their language was structured, and they would have to infer based on surviving languages how it was pronounced. The debate over right pronouncement for something like that is like, well, I mean, we're talking about a franchise where they insist that Arthur Pendragon's feminine form of her name is Altria.
Yeah,
I was just bringing that up because when I use her as a go-to persona for mid to late game persona all the time, the actual goddess that's based on.
Yeah, so this is one of these situations.
This
is one of these situations where there is probably like an in-universe canon pronunciation, but there's no reason to believe that has any real-world correlate. It's like how even for a very, very simple example, using poetry in that, for instance, we can infer how the Latin language sounded in the time of Rome. Ecclesiastical Latin, the type of Latin that's currently spoken still in the world, doesn't sound anything like it. Pronunciation is very, very different. It's more like Italian than reconstructed Latin. The simple reality is that there is no recordings of people speaking ancient languages, and Minoan, and because the Minoan civilization is where that particular set of gods was most revered, where the name would have had its original pronunciation. There's no way of determining what that is because it's not been handed down due to there being no extant form of that language. So it's one of those questions to which there's no right answer.
Mm-hmm.
But
I didn't know how old that language was. I just only heard it one way.
Yeah, I'm fairly sure it's Minoan, which means it's sort of like Proto-Greek in terms of age. But yeah, that's a pretty incredible fight scene. But generally speaking, in terms of sheer, excitement, drama, action, the second part was the strongest, I think, in just those terms. It was just a better sort of pace of things, I felt, and this one has what feel like similar pacing problems to the first one, in that the lead-in is just too long. But the thing is that everything is scaled right if you bolted every movie end on end and just sat there for 6 hours watching the whole thing. I feel like the pacing would more or less work there. But when you reduce it to the scale of the 3 parts, it doesn't quite work as well. And I feel like we've had the same sort of commentary on something else recently that we discussed, but I don't remember what it was. Oh yes, it was the new Dresden Files. It's a similar problem in that the parts don't quite work pacing wise independently of each other. But if you read the whole thing at a stretch, it would work a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a similar issue here. The first and second parts of Heaven's Feel do stand okay on their own. The second one is just so much stronger in a lot of ways, and it's just because it's got better material to work with, I feel. The first one is setting the scene, and the third one is just tying up all the floating dramatic loose ends. And the second one is the really, really strong one, and that's because it's the serious focusing in on Sakura's total disintegration of her as a person, like, because she basically is operating under false pretenses the entire time, in every circumstance, in the sense that she's not basically telling anybody around her what's actually going on with her, and she's got her reasons for that, sure, but the complete crumbling of her entire world and worldview that takes place in the second one is the linchpin of the entire story. And while you've got the background that sets that up in the first one, allowing the first part to make sense, by the time the third part comes around, there's nothing left to do other than resolve it. So there's not the same sort of dramatic tension, I don't feel, in the third part that there is in the first and the second, because you've at least got the looming menace in the first part of it, and in the second part of it you've got there's some really interesting directorial decisions and great cinematography in the second part where they, visually express Sakura's complete falling apart as a person, culminating in the dramatic moment where she murders her brother in the end of the second part. But in the third part it's just weaker all round. And I think that's because that this has been adapted as a Heaven's Feel story as Heaven's Feel was written originally before it was published. That is to say, Heaven's Feel before it was merged with Ilya's story. Because Ilya takes a massive backseat in this. And in Heaven's Feel as it was written in the visual novel, Shiro's investment in the story of Heaven's Feel comes from two places. Number one, the weaker one, is his romantic attachment to Sakura, and ultimately that's a very simplistic motivation that's presented in the story of the visual novel. Like, he definitely has a huge amount of both attraction to and affection for, genuine romantic affection for Sakura, and that does bend most of his actions around that end. But the intellectual sort of introspective part of what drives him forward is teased out of him largely by Ilya, by his interactions with Ilya, and that's completely absent from the movie. They've pruned Ilya's role back significantly, but unfortunately Ilya's still an integral part of the plot, and with Ilya's role being reduced, that sort of de facto reduces Shiro's role as well and focuses the narrative much, much more strongly on Sakura. Like, if you watched just the third movie, you would think that the story was about Sakura and Rin, and that Shiro was just a corollary character who for some reason gets a lot of screen time. Because all of the dramatic exchanges that take place in Heaven's Feel Part 3 are between Rin and Sakura, and Shiro is basically irrelevant.
So, speaking of Shiro, there is one fight scene near the end that do not know how they're going to do well in a movie context.
And they didn't do it very well. It wasn't done poorly, but it wasn't done well. I felt like that was a decisively middling expression of what was being done. But this comes from the same problem that I mentioned earlier, in that so much of the story takes place inside the characters' heads.
Yeah, and this fight is all inside Shiro's head. They
try and express it, but it comes off as a bit like, if you went through the visual novel and you just looked at the things they said to each other, it becomes very, very obvious that there would be no meeting of the minds on that. But the nuance of why they can't ever meet have a meeting of the minds, which is what actually lends it the dramatic weight. Not the fact that they disagree, but that it's impossible for them to ever agree. That can't really be seen because it takes place in their respective minds.
Yeah, it's a shame, but I don't know a way you can do it. It's just that fight is very special in the visual novel. I think it's incredibly well done and probably one of the best VN fight scenes out there. But it's just not possible to convey it on screen.
No, it's a very average. But like I said, I could not tell you a single thing that I would change about it that would make it better. The way it was presented there, because I just don't know that there's a way to do it.
Yeah, it's a hour-long fight scene reading what's going on in Shiro's head.
Whereas ultimately in practice it was about 10 minutes of punching each other.
Yeah. If that, I think it was something even shorter.
Well, they're both on the verge of dying and have about 90 seconds left to live.
Yeah,
so they both expire naturally because they're completely at the frayed edge of exhaustion, and most of them missing vital organs at this point.
Yeah, it's a incredibly brutal fight scene.
And they do put it in there, and it is a dirty, ugly slugfest because that's what it was. But the sort of the weight of philosophy behind that dirty, ugly slugfest is not really readily apparent. Like you know that it's there, you can sort of tell that there's something significant behind what's going on, but it's not expressed because the expression of that disagreement happens for them independently of each other, more or less, and it's just not put together very well. It's another thing that the impact of it is lessened further by its separation into 3 parts because there's simply not enough Kirei in the movie to make it work in just one part. Because his role is it's reduced too much. But it's I feel like this is one of those situations where there are too many characters to do it justice. Because you can't just linger on every individual character at length the way that a visual novel can. But the
way the story's structured, we can't just prune most of them.
Yeah, they're woven together, but I think that it really does suffer from the fact that it was never supposed to be one story. Like Heaven's Feel was always supposed to be one of 2 stories. Because there was for those that don't know, Fate Stay Night was supposed to be constructed with a light side and a dark side the way Tsukihime was.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Tsukihime has roots on the light side and roots on the dark side. And the light side was supposed to be Rin and Saber, and the dark side was supposed to be Sakura and Ilya. But they didn't have time to finish, so they tried to weave the main plot threads of Sakura and Ilya's roots together, making Sakura being the less controversial one, the romantic interest. And they do a tolerable job of it, tolerable only, in the visual novel. But the movie, when they've had to prune out a lot of the stuff that makes the broader narrative spin together properly, it makes it feel unbalanced. But I'd have to go through and think about it and review it again after having done a marathon viewing of all 3 parts once the 3rd part comes out on Blu-ray. Because
so you're not going to go back to the theater, are you?
They won't show it again in the theater. But yeah, I would have to think about it again after viewing them back to back because it very clearly would just work better that way. It just doesn't quite work properly in the when viewed by itself because you've sort of got the terminus of several independent character stories taking place, and I feel like the story of what goes on between Shiro and Sakura is already over by the time the 2nd movie is over. There's nothing more to tell by the time the 3rd movie comes along. It's the story between Rin and Sakura has not finished, and the story between Shiro and Kirei has not finished, although that story is told only peripherally. And Ilya, unfortunately, gets left out in the cold. No pun intended. Because she's such a footnote, but unfortunately plays a critical role in the way the story is put together. But yeah, so it was as good as it could be, but viewed as a separate movie, I don't think it was not great. But I could not improve it. I could not think of a way offhand to make it definitely better. So yeah, that's more or less what I've got to say on that. I still very much enjoyed it, both as a fan of the story in particular and the universe in general. But I think they did as good as they could do with it, and the fight scenes really were great. The the fight scene where Shiro uses Nine Lives Blade Works to bring down Berserker is. I thought that it seemed really, really, really short in the movie, and then I realized actually most of what made that story that fight seem longer in the visual novel was probably just descriptions of Shiro having a stroke. So yeah, maybe it was never actually very long, but that seemed very, very short. But yeah, that's another thing that the movie is really thoroughly missing is the gravity of what it means to actually use Archer's arm for Shiro, because the visual novel describes at length the crippling effect that it has on his mind, how he basically starts to lose his sense of reason, his sense of logic, his sense of self. It all starts to evaporate the more he tries to use the arm. But because that all takes place on a sort of like a semi-conscious level, and it only takes place within the character's head, there's actually no way to see that at all. The only way that you can tell something is going on is towards the very end of the movie when his speech starts to break up and he can't remember people's names anymore and that sort of thing. But when Kirei comes on screen for their big confrontation, all of that evaporates. And that's the only real strong hint that there's this major disagreement between him and Kirei, is that for that moment, Kirei is more important than all of the other people around him to Shiro.
So, for Fern, the best way to describe the original VN version of what happens to Shiro is think of a much better written version of what happened in the last chapter of Worm to Taylor.
I see. Yeah, that for Worm at least that last chapter was a bit bleh.
Wait, it's the same type of mental degradation that happens throughout the entire last chapter?
Oh yeah,
the last arc?
Talking about the arc as a whole, yeah.
In fact, it's very similar, and would not be surprised if Heaven's Feel was an inspiration. It's so similar, but
Okay.
you don't. It's Heaven's Feel does it way better because they don't warp their perception as well,
And
not to the degree they do at the end of Worm anyway.
Yeah, and there's no strange interdimensional space squid flying around.
No, but there's a strange interdimension. Well, not interdimensional, but
Because Abby
Super
doesn't appear.
No, there's a very evil black goop in shadow running around.
Gotta have that goop.
Yeah, actually, he does sort of look a little bit like a squid when he's hanging upside down from the ceiling of the cavern. But squid don't have 4 eyes. Yeah. So the ending really they went for the true ending, where so you get a very, 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 very brief, viewed only from the back, cameo appearance from Toko.
Best girl.
But it really, my first impression that I came away with after watching that scene presented in movie format was, wow, this is key magic, isn't it? Because the story basically ends by key magic.
Toko confirmed, works for Key, brings the key magic.
But yeah, there are some things about it I like that are the way it was put together that are very subtle and have been done very well. Like I really don't want to take away from how good this actually is, considering how difficult it was to adapt. There are definitely things about it that I feel were lacking, but what they have done with the tools they have available has been very, very good. And if what you are into is like just the awesome fight scenes, it is incredibly good at that as well. The superlative work on that count. But yeah, I think that the high point fight is ironically a sort of a semi inconsequential one that takes place as the climactic battle in the second part between Saber Alter and Berserker.
It's beating up the Gate Guardian to the final dungeon.
Yeah, the thing is that that's not really. It's like not like a narratively important fight at all.
Yeah,
It has
that's what I mean.
No real significant. But it's just incredible to look at in every respect. But the fight between Medusa and Saber Alta is also very, very, very good and very dramatic. It was so much fun getting to see Medusa finally fight at full power. Doesn't have Shinji holding her back anymore. Doesn't have to maintain any kind of silly additional rules. Isn't trying to conceal her power at all. I mean, she admits outright that the best that she can do, even under ideal circumstances, is to be a reasonable challenge for Saber Alta for maybe 2 minutes. But she does an incredible fight. It was great fun to watch. But yeah, so I'll leave it at that for that movie. I enjoyed it, but it's not something that, like, as a set of 3 movies, I think it's quite watchable, but I think that it's very much more watchable for a fan who's read the original material. Though I don't think you need to be, because viewed as a slightly more shallow experience, it still works very well because of the sheer visual flair, and the animation throughout is spectacular. Not just some of the best that I've seen in it's not just good because it's a movie. It's like better than the vast majority of anime movies that I've seen in terms of production quality. Like,
Well,
the
that's
animation,
in
the
general.
drawing is just, it's out of this world quality. Really, really great.
I'm now imagining Saber Alter as a DPS check for a raid before you can get into the real raid, and I could see Medusa and Shiro yelling at each other over Discord.
Yeah, I suppose that the only disadvantage of having to go this route is that you never get to see Crane Wing 3 Realm, because that's a dead end route.
Yeah, you got plenty of fighting games where you can see that, though, and all kinds of other places where you can see it.
Yeah, but it's not UFO Table.
It's true.
You see a abridged version of it in Unlimited Blade Works, the anime, though.
I suppose that's true.
And it still looks really cool. So yeah, Pickle.
Pickle.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm done. I don't have much else to say about it. That was like the only thing I did this week. So
yeah.
All right.
We got time.
We should go to a break.
You
Okay,
think?
we'll go. We'll go. Okay.
Okay.
We'll just yeah, we'll roll with my week. I don't have too terribly much to talk about.
All right.
So-
do the thing.
All right, my thing. So this week, a lot of work, a lot of stuff for the other show. I got to ride a horse-drawn carriage today. That was fun. But yeah, I want to save most of that for if we do another show, and whenever we decide to do it, because it was a lot of fun, and it was a great. There's no other way to describe this. It was walking amongst the uncut, and it felt so good. So, what else? Video games. There's 2 video games I can talk about, and it's the same ones that have been the background do something with your hands before bed games that I've had going forever. So we'll start with PSO2, since neither of y'all has anything to add to that one.
Yeah.
Episode 5 ended. The last series of quests came out, and we were basically told all of episode 5 was a fairy tale, didn't do anything except establish the villains of episode 6. Now, I don't know how that's going to work, because it establishes the villains for episode 6, and we don't have episode 6 yet, so we don't know what else in that episode happened that's relevant to the story. But it's presented as though it was all just a fairy tale at the end, and oh, by the way, here's the new bad guys.
Blah.
The new bad
story.
guys are the old good guys. So I don't know how much of that's going to be relevant. Episode 5 is tied directly to episode 6. They might as well be one chapter, from what I understand. Because, and from what I saw as well, because the ending ends with you resolving the conflict on Omega, and you go back to the ship, and then the new villains are just sitting in the shopping plaza.
What?
What?
Are sitting in the new shopping plaza. They're
Okay.
sitting down.
They're just there.
So you go back to the ship and you go to the shopping. You get characters from Omega come up to you and be like, "My master wants to meet you." I'm like, won't you just on the planet, dude? Like, just talk to you. And you go to the
Is
shopping
Ari
plaza and there's
breaking up for you, Finn?
Yeah.
I am lagging bad.
You're lagging like a boss.
I hit red connection there for some reason.
Because Discord hates you.
Yeah. So you go to the shopping plaza and the new villains are sitting there. And they're like, "Oh, we are so powerful." Zero's like, "Releasing limiters, quick." Of course you don't stop them. And all the big characters show up. And there's a bunch of Enemu action that happens. And they go, "Ha ha ha, you are so weak, you cannot defeat me." And they teleport out, literally sitting on a big throne they materialized out of nowhere. And then a big rift in space opens up, and that's where the episode ends.
I see.
So it goes to... It's like, she stares at the big rift and, that big thing's coming through. That's very interesting. Let's see how Arx deals with this challenge before I go and squish them like bugs. And that's where it ends. The story literally just has a hard block stuck in it. Wait till the next update. And the next update is episode 6. So I guess the 2 episodes are just one episode that was cut in half. They're probably only labeled as such because the Omega story does end in episode 5 at the end of episode 5, but also all the new classes and the finalized mechanics for the end of PSO2 are in play at the start of episode 6. So they wanted to make it episode 6 to denote that we're on the last mega patch. So that'll be coming in December. And the Omega story itself, if you take out the context to the end, where we don't know if it really happened or not, although there's a hint with Risa that actually the villain lied and it totally did happen for in connection again. What the heck is
yeah,
up with
your
Finder?
connection is really tainted.
Yeah, I have no idea what you're saying now.
What is happening? Let me closing some. Can't be me. It's got to be somebody upstairs. But yeah. So taking all that aside, the episode 5 story is okay. It's perfectly serviceable as something to chew through over time. It took me several months to get through the whole thing. When a new episode would come out, it would take me, or a new bit of the episode would come out, it would take me about 3 or 4 days to play through all of it, going about an hour or 2 hours a day.
Okay, so it's not particularly long when you look at it like that.
Well, it's 6 chapters, so it's that times 6.
Yeah.
So you're looking at about a 30-hour story.
Okay, that's not bad.
But it's perfectly serviceable. It's just really weird. Not as weird as episode 4. And weird in a more... It fits the normal PSO2 universe instead of going to Earth.
Yeah, that did make a whole lot of sense.
Is that canon? Like, I don't even know.
Yeah.
What's
Oh,
going
yeah.
on.
The characters on Earth show up in episode 5 and continue to show up at intervals.
So is them showing up in episode 5 canon?
Well, yeah, because that happens on the Arc ship.
Right, yeah, but you just told me it was a fairy tale.
Only the stuff that happened on Omega, supposedly. But also, we have Risa literally walk in with a gun that can talk that heavily says, "Oh no, it wasn't all a fantasy." So I don't have a clue what's going on. We have ended at a point where there are so many questions and no answers. And we will presumably start getting them in December.
Maybe.
In the typical PSO2 way, I presume, which is...
So, yeah, we're getting nothing then.
Yeah, we'll get a blurb about photons.
Yeah.
The photons did it.
Something photons.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I didn't like it as much as I did episode 4. Episode 4 was a fun one-off that just got ridiculous and was just stupid the whole way through, but was...
You get one of those. You can't do it again.
Yeah. This was just... They tried to do some weird stuff in episode 5. It's hard to explain, and I don't know if I like it or not. It's really hard to judge. You just got to play it for yourself and figure it out. It's stick your toe in it and see if you like it, or you just want to skip the story to unlock Buster quests. So yeah. Then we have the finalization of all the mechanics that have come out. They're dumping gold keys on everybody, so everybody can dump them into one of the new hero classes when they come out at the start of episode 6.
Mhm.
I'm using them to level Ranger, and then after I've got Ranger and Bouncer up, I will start saving them and just hoarding them until episode 6 comes out. So, and
Yep.
try out one of the new Scion classes. So yeah, we'll get the finalized tier of weapons. The Atlas tier will be released, and that progression chain will continue as episode 6 is released. But you can start working towards them because they all branch off of the Atlas weapons from there, and
Okay.
you'll be able to work on your final in-game weapons. And they have released a placeholder, a catch-up set of units that are actual units, not sub pieces. As you finish episode 5 and do the story, the main ARCS mission rewards are at certain chapter ends. They give you a piece of armor that's a proper piece of armor, not a sub unit. So you can make those upgraded and make them so you can attach rings to them and stuff, and fully deck those out if you want, or you can go farm the in-game stuff if you really want.
Okay, that'll
But
help a lot.
Yeah, but they're perfectly serviceable as is. So yeah, that's your PSO2 update. It really is just over the last 2 weeks I've poked at the story over time and finally finished it. So yeah, that's PSO2. And the other game is I've been corralled into Genshin Impact. Coerce, as you will.
So much for
try the
your
event.
being done with it.
Yeah, I got drugged back in to do the event. So this is the first proper event they've had with a story and a shop and currency and everything. So the story is pretty short. It takes about an hour for each chapter, and then you're just grinding. And the
You the event
grind,
shop, man.
no, you don't. You don't even have to do it 30 times for full base rewards. Never mind clearing the shop. That ain't happening. Although you can get several million Mira if you really want to go crazy. I would advise any currency you gets dumped into EXP books and or Mira.
Yeah, I would say EXP books, since the Mira ley line is a better value for money, so to speak, value for resin than the XP book one.
Well, one full resin blob, so 160 resin, will net you 900,000 Mira. That's a lot.
It is.
That'll last you a while. And there are 150 purple EXP books and 150 blue EXP books. And to buy all those, you need 1.5 full resin tanks. And then there's upgrade materials in there and more Mira.
But those, at least you could farm those in a semi-consistent way.
Yeah.
Getting huge amounts of EXP is not nearly so easy.
Yeah, so buy out all the EXP books first and then dump it all into Mira. That's what I recommend. What else? The farming itself, A, scales to the number of players you have, and B, is really boring. So, me and Abo are both world level whatever is 44 for adventure rank. And you go to these fallen meteorite shards, and you talk to Muna first. Muna, whatever. And she does her astrology, Wuja Wuja, and pinpoints 4 locations on your map. And at these locations are meteorite shards. And you talk to the meteorite shard, and you say, I want to do it on this difficulty. And it will put a circle around itself that's fairly big and you can run around in. But if you leave it, you lose progress. So you don't ever want to do that. You got to fight in the circle. And you got to kill enemies that spawn until you fill up a bar. And then when you're done, you pay 20 resin and you get your rewards and you go to the next one. And then when you run out of them, you go back to Muna and you do it again.
Right.
And then when you run out of resin, you log off. That is exactly how this event goes. It is not very interesting. The
We
enemies
can just wander the world and collect the little shards, I guess. They don't take resin to pick up, at least.
You could, but you get like 40 shards for the highest difficulty. So you can spend 20 resin and get 40, or you can spend 5 hours and get 6.
But you don't have to pay for resin. And it's
That's
not
true.
like you won't be killing a bunch of other stuff and getting like upgrade materials and stuff on the way as well.
No, you do not get any drops from stuff that spawns for the event nodes when you do
Well,
them.
I was talking about the random dudes in the world.
Oh yeah, those. Yeah, you get those. But yeah, you also don't get any drops for the dudes that spawn. So if a pile of Fatui dudes spawn on you for an event at one of them, guess what? You don't get.
Yeah, that's like there's no way around that because of the way they've set the game up. Because let's say that they did give drops, then people would abuse the system, completely ignoring the event purely in order to spawn more dudes for drops without having to go anywhere.
Everybody be well. Here's the thing.
It would be FGO's Barbatos rather than the local one, where everybody's just killing the demon pillar over and over again.
Yeah, so they have a system set up to semi-prevent that, where you have to do all of the nodes that Muna makes marks on your map before you can go back to her, and the mobs that spawn at each node are fixed, and once you finish it, it's poofs. It's gone.
Poofs.
So, until you get your loot, it won't poof, by the way, so you have to spend resin to make it poof.
Right.
So yeah, that's the event in Genshin. And Fischl talks in Fischlisms, and Paimon goes, "What the heck are you saying, honey?"
I love Fischl. She's great.
I hate Paimon, but everybody hates Paimon.
Paimon's delicious.
I like that the Traveler is getting more and more abusive towards Paimon as time goes on.
Yeah, that's a thing.
And the Traveler has no choices to look at Fischl and go, "Lol, what?" You have to play along in every conversation option.
Paimon rapidly becomes a skilled Fischl translator.
Yes, Oz is very, very impressed that she understands the language of his princess so well.
I have many questions.
I really like Fischl. I'm just amused at like the strange scenario where you've got a raging Chuny who just so happens to have access to a goodly portion of the superpowers that she claims she has. And it actually does seem to have reasonably keen intuition to boot. So everything that comes out of her mouth is completely bat guano insane, but she's still right most of the time.
Well, she is your princessin, I guess. That's what she calls herself, the princessin.
Princessin, eh? That's
yeah.
good.
Butcher German is Butcher German is the go-to for Chuny speak. Apparently,
that's Chunese, definitely Chunese.
Chunese, as it were.
Chunese. There we go.
We have arrived.
So yeah, she speaks in fluent Chunese, which only Paimon and Oz can interpret. I mean, you can kind of work it out most of the time.
I'm not really like, what is Oz realistically?
He's a talking bird.
Yeah, but he's not a talking bird that is in any way independent of Fischl. So does that mean he's a part of Fischl?
I am.
Is he like the subconscious mechanism by which she makes her will actually known to people because nobody understands what she says?
I have no idea. The story hadn't gotten that far yet, but
we need more Oz lore.
What is his deal?
My headcanon is that she's a Chuny that became so delusional, her delusion manifested in reality.
It's probably not that far from what the actual story is.
Probably involved a meteorite.
Or something.
Things seem to fall from the sky a lot in this world.
Yeah. This whole event is meteorites are falling from the sky that are actually stars, and they're putting people to sleep when they touch them.
No, they're actually people's failed gacha pulls.
Sleep, eh? Sleep.
That is a joke I've seen quite a bit. Yeah, they if you touch them, you pass out and you don't wake up until they're removed from the area. And that's what you're doing with Fischl, is going and collecting these things to take them away safely.
Yeah, my one primary reason for doing this event though is to get hopefully I'll be able to stack up enough crap before the event finishes to get that extra copy of Fischl.
Yeah.
She's my go-to archer for all archer purposes, mainly because I just enjoy her character. Although that makes me feel bad for Amber and frankly all the other archers, because archery just kind of sucks in this game for some reason.
It's got very specific uses in both combat and exploration, but it is not the generalized go-to for anything.
But that's the thing, right? Every other weapon type can be used as a generalist, except in certain circumstances, like casters can't be used against the particular elemental slime or whatever. But for the most part, everybody can be used in every situation. But yeah, the bows just are a major exception to that logic and don't work for anything.
That said, where they shine, they are absolutely necessary.
Yeah, but that's not a really great way to build a class. I mean, and there's like things like the new 5-star Childa. He can switch between close combat mode and bow mode because he's allowed both. But there's absolutely no reason to use the bow ever.
Yeah, you want to try and keep it in water mode.
He's so effective in his close combat mode that if you have to use the bow, it's just, oh man, how long until the cooldown is over again?
Speaking of, more Diluc regret has been all over the place ever since he came out, because his damage blows Diluc out of the water if you gear him right.
Oh yeah, like even if all you do is just spam click.
No pun intended.
Starts. Oh, that's disgusting.
So yeah, he just completely destroys Diluc.
No, I'm perfectly happy with Klee. She's adorable.
Yeah. Dumpty Dumpty Boo. That's all she says. That's all I hear when Klee's around.
Dumpty Dumpty Boo.
That's what she says when she uses her bouncy ball skill.
I see.
And she says it loudly to the entirety of the area around her every time she uses it, no matter your distance from her.
Right.
Really? It doesn't. The volume doesn't scale properly?
Not for that skill. Because Abo uses Klee as his main damage dealer too. And I hear the whole time we're clearing meteorite shards, Dumpty Dumpty Boo.
Yeah, I use her as my secondary, so like I use her for fighting like the fighting Gimel and that sort of thing, where I can't use Ningguang because Geo. But that really, I find that actually unbelievably frustrating that you can't use casters to farm up the element that would be used to ascend them.
Yeah.
It doesn't apply to any other weapon type. This is the big weakness of the caster type, is that you can't farm your ascension mats using that character, which is a huge pain in the butt if they're your main damage dealer. So like I need to kill the whatchamacallit, the Geo Hypostasis to get materials to upgrade Ningguang, but Ningguang does literally 0 damage to Geo Hypostasis.
Oh, you know, it's even better with that one. Everybody has Noelle as their greatsword user if they only have one. And guess what element she is?
Yep. So I used Klee for that entire fight.
Oh my goodness.
And she's actually really effective at it. It seems like when you're trying to blow up those pillars, it seems like when you use the bouncy thing, it hits a ton of times.
It's possible. I have no idea how it works there. I just
it's like it will throw out the little bloopy things that appear when you know the mini and they will all appear inside the pillar if you time it right, and so they all hit the pillar straight away and explode.
That's really convenient because I have to just sit there and match circle.
Yeah. I have several other Claymore users, but Noelle is the only one that I've leveled up, and that's sort of frustrating to me at this point. Not really sure what to do. I really, really enjoy I enjoy playing. I mainly enjoy playing characters that I'm not forced to actually constantly change character to get the most out of them. I mean, I know there's a lot of people who prefer to do that sort of cycle between all their characters and build up tons and tons of effects. But I prefer to just to play a particular style where possible. So I have the pirate girl, Baidu, and
I just got her
she's
this week.
really fun to play. I think simple and fun, and a Claymore user. But where am I going to get all the EXP books to level her up?
The event.
That'll get her to what, level 40?
It takes 190 purple EXP books to go from 60 to 70, I think.
Yeah, they need to fix that. Seriously. I know that they want people to grind, but the dark side to grinding, while it will keep people in your game, will also burn people out on your game.
Yeah, it's really bad. Just to spite the video game and all the tier listers, and to spite Diluc, I dumped all my EXP books and Mira into Circus.
Sucrose.
Sucrose. Does not suck, and she's not gross. But I know it's a sugar joke. But but yeah, she is the consistently lowest rated character on like every tier list I see. Next to Amber.
She's adorable, and
Yeah.
she's extremely good at putting people in a nice, convenient group to turn them into Klee fodder.
Yeah, she is adorable to fly around with. So I've got her to level 70 now after the event.
For smaller enemies, you can literally stun lock them effortlessly with Sucrose. It will take forever to whittle them down, but you can just pin them in one spot and beat the crap out of them.
But yeah.
I don't know why she's got such a bad reputation. I think it's probably only because Venti exists, who is basically Sucrose on steroids.
I saw one tier list that was like the most upvoted tier list, and it justified Diluc's placement at being so good because at his max constellation, this spreadsheet says he does this much damage.
Yeah, but nobody's ever going to see that, are they? Apart from those Chinese hyper leviathans, because there are a few Chinese players who just, they spent money until they got every character up to max constellation.
Man, I wonder what their social credit looks like after that.
I don't know if that makes it better or worse.
It's a Chinese company, but it's video games.
Yeah, because the Chinese government hates video games, but they like money.
They love money.
Yeah. So yeah, I am poking at the event occasionally. I get on Genshin Impact whenever somebody goes, help me kill something, or I need to spend resin, and that's about it. I have not progressed the story.
I haven't really progressed the story either, but I still play it like when I've got a spare moment, because it's one of those games, like it's designed for mobile, so it's one of those games where you can log on and actually accomplish something in the few minutes that you've got. Mm-hmm. It won't be a very big something, but you can still, chalk up, well, I did the thing.
I got 3 purple EXP books from that ley line.
I wish I could get purple ones from wet ley lines. Unfortunately, I can't level my world up because my character's power is lagging behind the quest required to qualify to level my world up. Because I can't farm up enough stuff to ascend them. Because reasons. Everything is terrible forever.
You need to go farm them artifacts, and then you gotta go farm that Mira, because artifacts are what eat all your money.
Yeah. Artifact. I don't even know how to farm artifacts. Like, it's really confusing to me. Am I just supposed to do the domains over and over again? Is that what you do?
I get them from bosses mostly.
I just get the same money every time I do a boss, so I've given up as a route for acquiring them.
I at the world level I'm at, I get gladiators, so I get as the most common drop, because it seems to change based on your world level what you get from the bosses. And at my current world level, I farmed all my 5-star artifacts without doing a single domain dedicated to artifacts, just by killing bosses.
All my gladiator gear, all of it is for the flower slot. Like, that's the only slot that ever drops gladiator stuff ever. Yeah,
and I could not get a 5-star feather to save my life. I had like 30 5-star gladiator helmets of terrible base stats, and I mean like plus healing bonus terrible base stats on the gladiator's piece.
But you said you use Barbara for DPS.
I do use Barbara for water DPS, but I also use Barbara for healing, and Barbara does not use a claymore, so the gladiator set is useless. Because it only gives bonus to sword and greatsword users.
Oh,
and pole arm, I think.
Are there any, other than Noelle, are there any healing greatsworders?
I don't think so right now. Really, your only options for good healers right now are Barbara and Noelle as a secondary.
Diona's not bad.
Yeah, if you can get them in her ult. It depends on the fight.
That ult gives you a humongous amount of sustain if you just stand in it and fight. You can tank pretty much anything.
Yeah. It's but yeah, I use if I'm going for optimum efficiency in anything, it is dilute Barbara. If I'm going for fun, it is usually Fischl and Barbara. Barbara is included in everything because you need a pocket healer.
Yeah, I haven't leveled Barbara yet, and I've been avoiding doing it because I resent the idea that I should have to, which isn't rational, but...
You don't see a lot of return on the investment, but you need the HP up to make her heals any good. So
yeah. My primary healer currently is Ningguang. I just equipped the weapon that gives you a little bit of healing when you use your ult, and then I just use the ult as often as possible, which when you're exploring is plenty of sustain. But yeah, it's I don't know. I feel like they've made healing a little bit too troublesome. It's something that requires very specific things for a party and constrains your ability to pick freely.
The hardest part of Spiral Abyss, if it's a new floor where I'm just trying to clear it, is okay, which team is going to get the Barbara? That is the hardest decision when deciding on when I'm hitting a new floor in Spiral Abyss. Because there's only one Barbara. So yeah. That's Genshin, I think. I rolled for a Reshkigal. I made bad decisions, spent some money on quartz, and got a Reshkigal.
Yeah, it's waifu secured. I didn't ever realize that you waifu'd her quite so hard.
I was not in a good headspace until the rally today, okay? For like the last 2 weeks, it's not been good, man.
Yeah, that's fair.
So it was a totally irrational decision that I have no justification for because I don't like her that much, but for some reason she was worth $80.
Yeah, you need to work on that mental health of yours, man.
So I got her though.
Yeah, I didn't roll for her at all. I'm still hoarding quartz. I think I'm at like 640 at this point.
But yeah. So I got her to level 89. I couldn't quite finish it. I ran out of AP. Did a few boxes. Or a few lotto boxes. Didn't even make Altera the Santa permanent. Didn't intend to. Wasn't going to spend that much time doing it. Didn't have enough time.
Yeah,
And,
I think I've heard enough meh to last me until the next time she becomes a bonus servant.
Why the annoying noises?
May.
Yeah,
You just-
she likes sheep, but nobody seemed to have the heart to tell her that no, actually, Santa doesn't ride a sheep, which is something that she states unequivocally on several occasions, I believe, that she's riding a sheep because obviously Santa Claus rides a sheep.
That's no.
I wonder if
think
that's a
she
pun
was
in
given-
Japanese somewhere.
I think she was just given some faulty information, to be honest. It's not like Doomazid is very reliable or anything.
I suppose so. All right.
I know that they had him played by David in the dramatic reenactment of their backstory, but because of that, I can only see Doomazid as being as flaky as David.
Oh dear.
Where is this conversation even going?
When I see Altera the Santa, I just think of Watame from Hololive.
Yes, I know. I'm just trying to see whether those things are going to meet up in my mind or not.
And it's mostly because of the rap. And the big hammer line in the rap is May May.
Because
So-
it's the sheep make, obviously.
Yes,
Obviously.
it is what they make in Japanese. But you haven't heard of Japanese sheep before?
Yeah, I guess.
But yeah, I think that's all I really got. And it sounds like I did a lot more than I did this week. This only encompassed about maybe 10 hours total, if that. So, yeah, not a whole lot there. I think we'll put my week at an end there, and we'll go to our break.
All right, let us do that.
Here's some Muzak. We will be right back. We're back. We're back. We are back. This is ASMR time.
No, that's horrible. I feel sick. Stop.
What are we doing?
And Fern with the contrast.
Oh, right. So that was a thing that was completely happening. So, you know another thing that's happening? There's an email.
Yay, I've been banned. Somebody else has to read it.
Hang on, what?
Yeah, it was because of him goofing the email so badly the last time we let him read one.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
I've been personally requested by this emailer to never read their emails again.
You did butcher it quite horribly last time. Who wants it? Shall I get it, or do you want it all?
I'm currently enmeshed in a fight which is taking a very long time because every time I get knocked out of the circle, I have to start over again and everything has knocked back.
Oh, this is a thing that happens.
You need to practice your reading, Fern.
It's reading while trying to do something else at the same time that I have problems with.
I thought that game was turn-based.
It is. Alright, so email. It comes from our good buddy Cerathus, and he says, "Dear No Excuses. With all these remakes trying to tickle my nostalgia button," I am so glad you didn't take that in another direction, "I gave in and bought the remaster of Crystal Caves HD. This particular puzzle platformer back from the ancient days when 3D Realms was called Apogee reminded me that puzzle platformers back in the day were mostly about waiting for slow-moving platforms to get in position, only having 3 lives and no checkpoints in a level. Yeah, I ended up refunding it."
I was under the impression that they were actually about pogo sticks, but okay.
It depends on the puzzle platform you're talking about. Like, back in those days, there was a lot of really awful puzzle platformer games that were just churned out because they were fairly cheap and easy to make. And most of them were absolute diabetes on the eyes. Just, oh.
Not even diabetes. They just were ugly.
Yeah. When they weren't trying to be ridiculously bright and colourful, they were just ugly. Otherwise, they're bright, colourful, and ugly.
Yeah, a whole lot of bad puzzle platformers. I never played Crystal Caves, I don't think.
I think...
No, I didn't play that one either.
I think I played it.
Which ones did I play? I played all of the first 6 Commander Keens plus the one which had vegetables in it for enemies.
Oh, yeah, that was a thing.
I played Biomenace and I played Monster Bash. And
I think everyone played Monster Bash, at least the first part of it.
And I played... Was Hocus Pocus one of those?
I think so.
What other ones did I play? I feel like that these platformers were a rather humongous part of my my childhood. So,
yeah,
but they were all very similar. So
extremely similar. Had terrible MIDI music when you could get it to work at all.
Hey, back in those days, MIDI music was incredible.
But only if you picked the right sound card.
Yeah, every kind of sound blaster had its own driver.
Yeah, and often a different driver would give you a different result, which was interesting.
Yeah. What else? What else was there? There was word and math. The word and math ones. What were those called? There was like, you tipped goo onto things, and then you had to solve spelling.
Math Blaster?
Was it Math Blaster?
No, that one was the shooter one.
Yeah, no, that was... I know the one you're talking about, but I can't remember what it was actually called. Because then there was that big boom of edutainment games as well.
Oh, yes. The edutainment games.
Can you name one good edutainment game?
Oregon Trail.
One that's not completely overdone?
Oregon Trail 2.
Damn it.
Let's see what else. I don't think I played Cosmo's Cosmic Adventure. I played Duke Nukem 1 and 2.
Oh, yeah, that's... Back when Duke Nukem was side-scrolling platformer.
Yeah, it was a pretty good one at that.
Oh, yeah,
I
they
played-
were.
I played Wacky Wheels.
Everyone played Wacky Wheels. I loved Wacky Wheels.
I remember the name of this game, but cannot put a picture to my head or a gameplay screen.
It was basically Mario Kart with zoo animals, like original Mario Kart.
Yeah, but it was basically a clone of Mario Kart from the SNES
Yeah.
onto PC.
The most memorable thing wasn't so much the characters, it was your pickups were all hedgehogs, and they were on the track doing the most random things.
I thought that was incredible.
It was great. Like, you
I
had
found it
one.
very amusing.
Some of them were easy, like they were just doing jumping jacks or something like that, or reading a newspaper. And then you had the occasional one where it was sitting on the toilet in the middle of a
Which,
racetrack.
as a child, that is just the funniest thing imaginable.
It is fantastic. If you're no 8.
It's on Steam.
Is it? Oh, that's right. There was a remaster of it a while ago, wasn't there?
I don't think it's a remaster. I
I think it's probably the original.
Let's have a look. Wacky Wheels, there it is. They want $7 for it. That's a bit, yeah.
I want $5 US.
Yeah, it'd be a $5. Let's see. Yeah, I think this is actually the original, just adapted. So, yeah, if you want old school nonsense without having to deal with DOS, then yeah, go play that. Good times. So yeah, I had a lot of those old Apogee games because not only were there shareware, but there was at one point you could go into like a Kmart or something and you could get a bunch of these different games for like $5 each.
Well, the first episode anyway.
Yeah, because they charge for the first episode of shareware.
Yeah, it was very, 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 very difficult to get the full version if you didn't actually live in the States.
I actually got the full version of Monster Bash at one point. The game
I did illegally.
Yeah, I think it was illegal as well. Yeah, a lot of the shareware games put all their good ideas into that first chapter.
Yeah, I suppose that's true to a certain extent. Like I feel like, for instance, Commander Keen 4 was vastly better than the ones that followed.
Yep. But yeah, you had like Quake is probably the biggest. What's the word? I can't words. It's the biggest offender. Thank you. Where Chapter 1 is fantastic, and it even has an actual boss at the end, sort of.
Well, it's a boss that you can kill without firing a shot in a span of about 15 seconds.
Yeah, you run around the room, press a couple of buttons really quick.
I just want to point out that Wacky Wheels requires 2 gigabytes of RAM to run.
Why?
Through all emulation overhead.
Probably. Because that thing would run on a system with what? 1995 RAM? I can't even remember how much that was.
That'd be... No, it wouldn't even be...
It'd be about
6 megs.
No, it'd be 2 to 4 megabytes. Sort of thing.
Yeah. It's like 2 generations behind that.
Gigabyte memory gigabyte RAM rather wasn't even a thing.
We were barely into double-digit megabytes for the higher-end systems.
So, oh boy, old school. All right, where were we? So the email continues because there's more of it and we're tangenting something horrible. What I didn't end up refunding was Rogue Legacy 2, because there is a Rogue Legacy 2, albeit it's still in early access. Fairly low on content, but from what I have seen, this one is a keeper. They moved from Rogue a bit towards Metroidvania by introducing unlockable abilities that persisted between runs, in addition to the usual upgrades between and during runs. Rogue Legacy was not roguelike in the slightest.
But it is probably one of the chief offenders of fixing the roguelite title to that subgenre.
Here's the thing. Since the last 2 roguelike games I have actually played that deserve the title of roguelike are Caves of Qud and Dungeons of Dreadmore. Those 2 games are like Rogue. It's a bastardized term, like, Dark Souls clone. It doesn't mean anything anymore.
Yeah. Just like Dark Souls.
Whereas, as much as I love Rogue Legacy, it's got nothing to do with Rogue. Because it's a side-scrolling platformer. It's just, you have death, and your character dies, and you start again with a new run.
At least it seems like the roguelike light subgenre is narrowing its definition to something consistent.
No,
I've
it's
never
not.
really understood what the point of that description was, because it basically means like Rogue, except it's not like Rogue.
Yeah, it is nothing like Rogue. It just means when you die, you restart the run and the levels are generated randomly.
Yeah. Although the randomness thing is even up to date, or up to debate.
Kind of. As long as I don't know. I don't like the subgenre, so I don't play enough of them to get a good sample size. But that's what it seems to be narrowing down to.
Yeah, it's just so broad and ill-defined. Too bad.
Unlike just like Dark Souls subgenre, which is pick X number of elements from Dark Souls, and if things in the game even remotely resemble them, and or the game is just too hard for game journalists, it's just like Dark Souls.
Yeah, I'm going to just narrow that down even for it's just too hard for game journalists, therefore it is Dark Souls.
There you go.
Remember, the Cuphead tutorial is just like Dark Souls. That was.
Doesn't that also mean that Doom is just like Dark Souls?
Oh yeah, you got to shoot that floor.
They said Crash Bandicoot was just like Dark Souls.
Yes, they did. Yeah, I mean, if you want a cross section of exactly what James journalism, there you go, has become, it's the whole Dark Souls clone phenomenon.
The Crash Bandicoot example is just the funniest thing in the world to me.
It makes absolutely no sense.
It's just like Dark Souls, and they were totally serious about it.
Yeah.
It's the Dark Souls of Crash Bandicoot games. I don't know what you're talking about.
Ignoring that it predated Dark Souls by about 15 years. That's irrelevant.
Why would you expect a games journalist to know anything about video games?
Because I still have some semblance of hope for mankind.
No.
Why?
It's bad.
I know. I really
Throw
shouldn't.
that away.
I should know better. Alright, the final bit of the email, and he goes on. And finally, I started making headways into Doom Eternal. The game starts with where the previous stopped. You have full upgrades for everything, save the instant kill sword, and the difficulty goes up even further. Most reviewers dreaded the dual Marauder fight, but I absorbed it effortlessly on Ultra Violence. The single Marauder buffed by a totem was far more of a challenge. Then, spirit-possessed barons showed up and wrecked me. I need to get gooder, apparently.
It's not that the Marauders individually are very difficult. It is that they are not fun to fight.
Yeah, it's a boring mechanic that just requires you to, you need to be successful at this sort of razor-thin timing margin that doesn't really feel significant of much of anything.
And you have to be at the perfect range, and it totally goes out of pace with everything else in the game, which is just go, max speed, kill everything,
shooty,
rip
bang,
and
bang.
tear.
They require you to basically stop playing the game.
Yeah, you have to play a mini game every time a Marauder shows up. And hope they don't do the dog.
So I'll just quickly finish off the email. That's all for now. As usual, I'm sure there will be 3 other topics springing up as soon as I send this email. And that's from Serathus. So, Doom Eternal. Did you want to springboard off of that a bit more, or just you hate Marauders?
I'm done with Doom Eternal for goodsies. I got the plat. It's done. It's on the wall. Walked away.
Yeah, it really didn't seem like a game that had much to offer on a replay.
It's after they lobotomized the multiplayer, it just seems like there's no point to keep playing it. You just go back to play original Doom 2016.
Yeah, that multiplayer is much better and actually really fun. But the multiplayer's garbage. Single player, I don't like the gimmick of needing to chainsaw stuff to get ammunition and needing to do that and alternate between.
That smelt like people not understanding what made things cool in order while attempting to be cool. It's like, oh yeah, it's Doom. It's like rip and tear, man. So everybody wants a chainsaw all the time, man. No, the chainsaw was cool because number one, chainsaws are cool, but number two, you felt cool when you got to use it. If it becomes an everyday thing, it's not cool anymore. It's just, oh well, I've got to use this thing. It's like, rather than, oh well, I get to chainsaw a demon in half, it's like, oh man, I have to fell more trees and drag them to the dump.
Yeah, it's literally you're cutting down ammo trees with the thing. That's all it is. Because there are practically no ammo pickups in the world, and the only way you get ammo is by chainsawing dudes. So I just don't like that gameplay loop. I think it's really boring, and but at least it plays to the style of keep running and gunning. The Marauders just are obnoxious. And they're not hard, in air quotes. They're just annoying as crap.
Yeah.
Like, Wall was watching me play when I came up against a challenge with a Marauder I had to kill in X amount of time. And even with the time limit caveat, it just wasn't fun.
No, because you're not actually playing the Doom game anymore that they've set you up to play all this time. You're just playing this annoying mini game that's not like what you were doing before. You've got no freedom to do things how you want. You pretty much just have they ask you to do this thing, and then you've got to do it, and that's all.
Yeah,
it's like you're stopping playing the game that you were having fun playing to go and do something else for a while.
Yeah, it's literally every Marauder fight is a mini game that you have to stop what you're doing and play. But oh, by the way, the main game's still going on around you, and you have to take care of that first, and then go play the mini game.
Just why?
Nope. Vol, your mic's having static problems, so you might have to unplug it and plug it back in. But yeah, it's a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
So I don't like Doom Eternal very much. I now that I've had months to sit on it, I do not think I like it very much as a game in general. The super shotgun upgrades are cool. The speed of combat is cool, but the general game is not worth it as a whole. 2016 is just better in every way, I think.
Yeah, it really just seemed to just have sequelitis. It's like they take the things that were good and they run them straight into the ground.
Yeah, like if you just made new maps for 2016 and given the super shotgun the chain hook, would be good. I wish they'd have just done that.
Yeah, it felt to me like they were trying to be radical, man, or something.
Fellow kids, do you like the skateboards?
And while I personally enjoy the exploration elements, they don't feel very doomy the way they do them. They feel like you're playing Metroid Prime.
Like I said when I was watching you play it, it does not look like you're playing Doom a lot of the time. It looks like you're playing a first-person version of Darksiders.
Yeah, like I'm sitting here looking for the statue that looks slightly different to see if I can punch it to find a hidden secret. Or repeatedly jumping down an elevator shaft and reloading my save because I fell at a slightly wrong angle to get a secret in there. But I can see it on the map.
Yeah.
Yeah, this did not feel like Doom to me. So I do not agree with most of what Seraph said about it. The Barons never gave me a problem. And the Totems also never gave me a problem.
All right. So, thank you very much for the email there, Serathus.
Indeed.
All right. News this week is very...
Yeah.
There was only one major news story, and what's viable to report from it is dubious. So, there's that. We want to save that one for last and go for the smaller ones first, I guess.
I don't know. Take your pick.
All right, so Joe Biden.
Pick one first. Oh, damn it.
You walk right into that one, man.
I have a habit of walking straight into closed doors, yes.
So, Joe Biden put up on his website, joebiden.com, Animal Crossing as advertisement without Nintendo's permission.
Yeah, Nintendo don't like that much.
Yeah, they're pretty pretty guarded about who they let touch their stuff.
So this was obviously some millennial or Zoomer that had this great idea and was on his campaign staff.
Hello, fellow kids.
Probably the one that runs his Twitter. And had official Joe Biden QR codes you could download for Team Joe and I'm with Joe and Joe Harris with an Animal Crossing version of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
Yeah, which, by the way, creepy as all get out.
Yes. So the full statement, unfortunately, quoted in the article I leaked, but parts of it include Animal Crossing New Horizons Uses and Guidelines for Businesses and Organizations update includes, in order to preserve the experience for the millions of people enjoying the game recreationally, damaging or having bad and prevent damaging or having a bad influence on the community, Nintendo is taking appropriate actions, including prohibiting your future business usage of the game. As a blanket statement, they did not hit Joe Biden specifically with it because they think he's going to be president, but they aimed it right at him with this general hit. And
He does sniff children.
He does sniff the children.
See my post in the live show chat.
Don't want to.
So I actually saw the post the other day when this popped up, announcing that all this stuff is going to be available in Animal Crossing. Because that's not creepy at all. Like if Trump
I talked about it on the show the week it came up.
You did, but had it come from any of the Republicans, it would have been like someone's going to jail over this.
Yeah, like they'd be sued into oblivion.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, under democratic administrations, things typically work slightly more in terms of favor trading than under other administrations, because they just operate that way. It's not
they're just special. They got special rules for their special needs.
Well, it's more that their constituents don't hold them to account when they do things that are corrupt. Whereas if a Republican does something that is corrupt in plain view and Republican voters find out about it, typically they will vote that person out. They will primary that person. There will be a consequence if you get caught doing something bad in public. And, people criticize this as Republican voters being moralizing busybodies, but ultimately it's just that they've got standards. Whereas the Democrats, a lot of them just don't care what their elected representatives do once they get in office. They're just there as, icons of power, and that's pretty much it.
What do you mean I can't go to a hair salon after I lock down the whole state? Don't tell me what to do. I'm special. Anyway, the takeaway statement was: do not leverage the game as a marketing platform that directs people to activities or campaigns outside the game, including directing people to a sales page, distributing coupons, sweepstakes, giveaways, requiring consumers to follow on social media network service accounts, gathering customers' information, or other invitational activities.
Yeah. So it's a fairly broad and, standard thing. But
there was no reason they would have launched this thing unless it was because Joe Biden made it a prominent part of his main website.
Yeah, it's something that would have just been sitting in the background of their terms of service, and that would have been about it.
Yeah. I'm reminded of Hillary Clinton in 2016. I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I want to figure out how to get them to have Pokemon Go to the polls.
Can we not?
Democrats cringe. Yeah. So, Nintendo also notes they may revise this message as the community changes. Any business's use of this game that exceeds the rules set forth herein shall be permitted only with a separate and express written permission from Nintendo. So, Joe Biden, you want to try this again? You better get it in writing.
Yeah, next time, actually ask permission before you try to use somebody else's product to promote yourself.
and then go cheat when it's not enough.
Yes.
Well, it's not as if Joe Biden knows what Animal Crossing is.
No.
He doesn't know any. He doesn't know what his own name is anymore.
I was gonna say he doesn't know what day it is, but yeah.
So this is just some stupid millennial on his marketing team, or at least hello fellow millennials on his marketing team, trying to, do something, to, hip with the kids or whatever.
Yes.
But, it belies the insincerity of it, that anybody who actually knows about Nintendo at all knows that you can't pull this crap with Nintendo.
Yeah. Nintendo will shut that down quick.
And normally they just come after you with an army of lawyers. But Joe Biden's special because they think he's going to be the president. So he only gets a sternly worded letter that affects literally the entire population who will use the game in the future.
Alrighty. What's next?
What is there? There's more Blizzard layoffs.
Yeah.
There's always more Blizzard layoffs.
Yeah.
So what does... I know the region APAC refers to, but what does it actually stand for?
Oh, Asia Pacific and something, probably.
I couldn't tell you.
I could keep see every time I look it up, it's got people summarizing it but not saying exactly what it stands for. Let's ask Dr. Wikipedia and get their view on it. No, this isn't helpful at all.
I would think Asia Pacific
It just stands for Asia Pacific, which is, well, that seems kind of dumb to raise a 4-letter acronym to say Asia Pacific.
Asia Pacific, Australia, and China, maybe?
I don't think so. I think that it's Asia Pacific.
Because Asia Pacific actually covers Australia and China.
Yeah, I mean, China's in Asia, believe it or not.
Well, Australia's in the Pacific too, but...
Yeah, but the first 3 letters of Pacific are PAC.
Yeah. So,
I guess.
Think before you make an acronym, everyone. Because your acronym is probably dumb.
So yeah, it refers to like Japan, China, Taiwan. Japan, West Taiwan, Taiwan, Philippines, and Australia, and all those, and Vols, tiny island.
East Australia.
Yep. You said it, not me.
I know.
I don't think you really want that.
No.
Do you really want to be politically entangled with Jacinda?
No, we've got Albanese, and he's enough on his own. And we've still got Turnbull flying around, and he's still having his dummy spit. So that's been fun. Anyway, that's not what we're here for. So, yeah, Blizzard is going to be downsizing again in the region.
Yeah, so it seems like they're moving to an outsourced model for pretty much everything that doesn't involve actually making games is just going to be outsourced. And ultimately, what this really seems to belie is a total lack of regard for any of the corollary material that surrounds a game, such as, the community, the fandom,
support,
all that stuff. So all that kind of stuff is just going to be outsourced on the cheap. And they're firing all of the people who were involved in it before. So yeah, it's just a business restructuring, but on the back of so much other, laying people off and restructuring and so on. It seems very much, I don't know, like they're gearing up for something. Like, I don't know, maybe they're going to buy somebody out, or they're going to have a schism and sell off part of the company or something like that. It just seems very strange that they're undergoing these sort of international reorganizations whereby they're just shedding a lot of the people who are attached to their company, while at the same time they're hiring on large numbers of people for pure development type stuff, despite having not announced any projects which will actually consume all of that extra manpower that they're looking for. So yeah, I'm not I'm not really sure what they're gearing up for, but they seem to be gearing up for something.
They're just going to release a whole bunch of new WoW Classic servers
That would actually be a good, sensible decision. So it's not going to happen.
and ban all the Chinese farmers, give them their own server to farm on.
Yeah, so I asked Ari before the show, and he didn't know. But is the new WoW expansion out yet?
No, it would have been, but it's been delayed. Let me see what the actual new release date is. Hang on. Internet.
November 23rd. Comes out in 2 days.
2 days. There you go.
Bad for you, 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 bad for you.
I've got enough things to play without it.
Good.
Yeah, I'm just trying to decide if it's actually worse for me than Genshin Impact.
I have trails on the sky just lurking over there in the corner, waiting.
Yeah, I've certainly got tons of stuff to play. It's just that currently I'm playing something that is obviously toxic. But I just don't have any interest in this new expansion.
I really
at
don't
all.
either. Like,
It's like this isn't about Warcraft anymore. Like even if I was really, really into the whole Warcraft thing, like this doesn't seem like that thing anymore.
Especially considering I watched one of the trailers, the lore trailers thingies that they do now for Uther, and it looks like they're making him go angst.
Yeah, because that's what the kids are into, I'm sure.
Yeah, so that's a thing.
I'm just not convinced that they have any writers competent enough to find their feet without piggybacking off the work of other more talented writers. I mean, Warcraft was always pulp garbage, but it was at least competent pulp garbage. But now I think that their past expansions have shown a divergence towards a delusion that they are good writers, as opposed to pulp writers. Like pulp is not necessarily bad writing, but it does have a particularly narrow focus and tone that has to be done in a particular way. And I think that the people who have been effectively trying to carry on the legacy of what was basically pulp fantasy writing have convinced themselves that there's this big intellectual headspace to move into, and there's not. I'm sorry, there's just not. Warcraft is not a deep setting. It does not have deep lore. The lore changes every 5 minutes, for one thing.
Yeah. So, just...
Yeah.
But I'm sure we're going to get drowned in information about it before too long.
Oh, no doubt.
Goodness knows, Blizzard won't stop sending me stuff in my email.
I have them blocked in the spam filter.
Yeah, I think the spam filter's eating mine as well. Okay.
I think I still block your email account when I register my Blizzard account.
It's like how many of your family members are going to pest you to play.
Yeah, that's the different one.
You may think that you're safe now, but
Clearly, Ferns, you need to cut them all off. Just never speak to them again.
Just get your family.
It's like they're trying to get you into taking heroin or something.
Come on, man. We haven't done it in forever. It'll just be for a little bit.
That's how they get ya.
Oh, you don't have to raid seriously. You don't have to commit to anything. Don't worry, it'll be fine. And then
last week we needed the tank.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it starts.
Yeah.
And that's how they get ya.
Yeah, in for a penny, in for a pound, my friend.
Yep. So yeah, the old slippery slope and whatnot. I'm going to make a quick mention of this because it's not something we're going to carry on with now because we'll be syncing a whole show for later. But we got the nominations for Jeff Keighley's Nepotism Awards.
Please go and vote down anything that involves that hulking beast that is the new deuteragonist. What's the word?
Yeah, Damn it.
We need help.
The
It's a
other
word.
The other one.
The
When
other
there are-
one.
Well, there are two side-by-side protagonists, and one may or may not be slightly less relevant than the main one, but is still a
The
protagonist.
doopty-doo.
The ma'am.
Ma'am.
Ma'am. That's all you
Uh,
need to know. It's
So
ma'am.
yeah, I had a quick flick through them, and oh, it's sad this year.
I get the feeling we're going to be able to skip through this pretty quickly this year because we're going to be repeating ourselves a lot.
Yeah,
Ma'am.
yeah. It's like there's been only 5 games released this year.
It's Ma'am was one of them, unfortunately.
Yes, and it's nominated for everything.
It needs to be destroyed.
Because it was a bad game.
It very much was. It's very frustrating that people take it seriously. And no, the thing is that there were lots of people actually did play it because there's, like they say, all publicity is good publicity, and that's true to a certain extent. So lots and lots of people did play it,
Mm-hmm.
but
Like we said before, it only works once when you do something like what they did.
the nicest. I watched lots of reviews of it with people who were trying to be very even-handed, not get caught up in the. I hesitate to call it hype, but yeah, that's a good word. They were trying not to get caught up in it at all. But the nicest thing that they could do was say that, oh well, there are some parts of it that are well executed, and I think it was an interesting direction to attempt to take things. It was always very, very reserved, and I'm definitely giving them the benefit of the doubt style of compliments being paid to it.
Yep.
It was, yeah. I did not get the impression that it was actually well thought of at all.
Yeah.
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 Like even
Anybody that... Okay.
Yeah, even some of their most loyal supporters going into it came out with reviews later which were very either mealy mouthed or they were lying through their teeth.
I think the telling thing is that, to be totally honest, I had completely forgotten about the game until it came up.
Exactly.
For the game.
I had as well.
I had forgotten that it existed. Absolutely forgotten.
Completely.
And I'm fairly sure that everybody else had as well. That was not the case for Last of Us, the first one.
No.
While even though I felt that it was a mediocre game, people were still talking about it because they had found whatever they had found in the story or the characterization or whatever. Most people weren't that interested in the gameplay, but regardless, people were definitely still interested in it.
Yeah.
And that is absolutely not the case for this one.
Yeah.
And
Like,
it was
it
clear.
came out, it had its initial sales, and immediately people stopped talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
So
And that's about the most damning thing that you can say about it. Much more damning than all the creepy sex scenes and the agenda pushing and all that stuff. Ultimately, nobody cared.
Yeah.
And it was like they say, to be ignored is worse than to be hated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and after it released, other than the banners that they're contractually obligated by Sony to keep sticking up on the store and stuff, I forget this game exists until somebody goes, "It's Ma'am," as a joke.
So, yeah. So we'll go into that more in a couple of weeks. That'll probably actually be, if I'm looking at our calendar, second
It's
to last
usually
show
our
of the
end
year.
of year show. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
usually one of our end of year shows.
So, we'll go over all of that because, oh boy, are the nominations depressing.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, to be fair, this year has been actually quite crap for games, but not
It's
that
been
crap.
quite crap. It's been crap for everything.
Yes,
but-
It's been 2020.
it has been very much 2020. All right, Vol, why don't you pick an article?
Oh, I just picked the Activision one.
Oh,
what am I
okay,
gonna
Ari's
pick
turn
now?
then.
Okay. Let's see. Genshin Impact developers sue players who leaked the 1.2 closed beta content. So apparently,
naughty,
people
naughty.
that were in the beta and signed the NDA did not realize they were signing an NDA for a Chinese company.
Yeah, like normally these sorts of things don't get enforced, but I'm sorry to say that if you deal with the dragon, you're going to have to deal with getting burnt.
Yeah, you guys mess with China. You agreed to a beta test for a Chinese game. Now, if it's a Japanese company or an American company, they will usually just cut you off from further access.
Yeah, and might get blacklisted.
Yeah, you may have your main account banned if they're really angry at you. China don't do that.
No.
Yeah, you're lucky you've got to keep your gonads at this point.
And that's still up for debate if you have to get sued in China. They may, in fact, take them for organ harvest.
So
they do that, in case anybody has forgotten, forcible organ harvesting.
It exists.
It's not some back alley crime organization. That's what the government does.
They have done everything. In fact, I think they basically admitted to it in one speech, to the West anyway. I doubt they admit it to their own people, but
their people are so brainwashed that even if they did, it would be perceived as a good thing. Like I've had this conversation with various people. Particularly, it was obvious regarding the HoloLive thing recently, how the government can destroy your life and the lives of your family over you using a proxy to harass a Japanese VTuber over on behalf of your government. They can destroy your life because of that, and you will still think that the government are in the right.
And it's all Coco's fault somehow that your life got destroyed.
That's just how they operate. That's what's left of these people.
Yeah. Yeah. We need to take Lassie out behind the shed with a shotgun.
Oh dear.
It's normally Old Yeller, not Lassie.
Yeah, what have you done to Lassie, you monster?
So yeah. Some dudes on Reddit leaked it and didn't keep themselves very secure, I guess because they thought they would just get the usual slap on the wrist if they didn't get caught. That ain't happening.
These things, yeah.
No, China's taking them to court.
So these people are going to get disappeared.
If you get called into Chinese court, the correct answer is to disappear for a while and just not show up. So I don't know where they're going to sue these people or how this is going to work. I don't know the legal process here, but you done goofed.
You done goofed.
Yep. I can't say that in a sense I can't say that I blame MiHoYo either, because these sorts of things can be very damaging to your bottom line in a gacha game. I know that there has been, like, you may remember that before the recent engine upgrades, FGO used to run like absolute garbage. Didn't matter how powerful your device was.
Mm-hmm.
My brother looked into that because he's way more fanatical about playing FGO than I am. You just chew on that one for a little bit.
No, that doesn't process. I think that just doesn't compute.
He looked into it, and it turns out that the vast majority of that processing overhead is decryption, because they are in a constant war with leakers to try and prevent data mining out what the new servants are going to be, because it's so damaging to the level of excitement that it generates, which is directly connected to the amount of rolling people do.
I see.
So leaking is a big deal for games that rely on gacha, because that excitement of the new thing won't be there if people already know what the new characters are going to be. So it's a sound option for them to crack down like brutally hard on this as soon as possible, if they want to, establish a precedent that you don't try and damage our business propositions just because you want to be the first guy to know who the new characters are going to be.
Hope those Reddit golds were worth it.
It's kind of sad, really. That's probably what they do it for in a lot of cases. So, I want to be the first person to break this news so I can get Reddit gold. I don't even know what Reddit gold is. I just know that it's sort of a joke in a lot of circles.
It's essentially it's somebody who's paid to be able to put a sticker on your post.
Yeah, and you get some kind of funny money you can spend on like Reddit flair and stuff.
Yeah, more stickers.
Nothing about this sounds like a good deal.
Exactly.
No.
Because it's not.
Besides, if you really want it, just go. Well, never mind. I'll say
Leave it.
that was going to go Marine really fast.
Oh boy. All right.
Okay. So that was just a fun little tiny thing I saw.
Do.
And I guess we have the big one left.
All right, do the thing.
All right. So Capcom, I don't know if we know when this happened specifically because we don't have dates on a lot of this stuff. But at some point between now and 2018, Capcom got infected with ransomware on their server. And a whole lot of information got locked, and the ransomware people just stole it. And Capcom didn't want to pay to get it released, and they threatened if Capcom didn't pay them, they were going to start leaking it out. Well, they've started leaking it out. So, where is Farms where I can pull up the big thread? So, the Farms has a very detailed thread on this. I can't link it, number one, because it's in the articles and news thread, which is hidden from the public after some incidents involving governments. And it requires an account and a standing on the Farms to be able to see. And also, it's banned in some countries, including Vol's country.
Yeah,
so,
I can't see the farms even if I want to. I'd need to go through a proxy if I wanted to access it.
He needs to go through an ARI.
It's free speech.
Yeah, it's easier for me to just have Ari filter the autism rather than have to do it myself anyway.
Yeah. It's a bit much to go through otherwise.
While there are hilarious posts from this that have been translated into English by people, because of course they have, and terrifying at the same time, I might add, because they're all paused as crap. There is this section that takes up a good chunk of it, and it's just paused BS from slideshows presented at various points in the company, and have confidential level 3 for Penny and Vag, and check marks over what's appropriate and what is not. It's okay to have a sexy shirtless man, but big booty women in leotards, no, that's not okay. So just a whole lot of pause nonsense that's really worrying. But then we have the more substantive stuff. And that's all really funny. You can go find the Farms thread and get some standing if you want to go dig up the whole thing, because I'm not posting every single file from it. But it all follows in this vein. So, the other thing. First, the big thing that came out in full was the DMC2 source code. We have the whole source code for the game. Completely decrypted and available for anybody to mess with.
Huh.
You mean to ritually burn because that's all it deserves?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, thankfully, they got that source code, and I don't even know why they still have it. Honestly, it should have been sacrificed, but it still exists. We have the source code for the Misadventures of Tronbon, which I didn't even know existed, but okay.
Didn't that game get, that was going to be a thing, and didn't it get axed?
I don't know the history of it. But
yeah. There's a spin-off game of Mega Man, what was it? Legends, yeah.
Yeah. So, also that one with DJ and Miles Morales is really funny.
Yeah, I thought because Legends didn't do all that well, Trombone got the axe, if I'm recalling correctly.
Yeah, I don't know, but its source is there if you want it. Also, there is a talk of a games journalist mode, effectively.
Oh, jeez. Is this one where it's not just training wheels, but the whole game is made of training wheels?
Planning automatic finish up function, which will even decide the choices automatically. They demonstrate this with Catherine. The character will climb the right puzzle route automatically! ! You will be able to enjoy the game with few stress, since you can leave the difficult part to the autoplay and turn on off the settings whenever you would like to.
Oh, I love it.
I like to believe that the person who writes these things is laughing at the people who are going to use that while they write them.
Yeah. Well, most likely this will lack user satisfaction on accomplishment. However, there tends to be more disadvantage to getting stuck recently, question mark. So yeah, it's butchered English because it's people translating.
Google translated.
So yeah, well, let's see what else is in here. We have their hiring strategy for community managers and what their qualifications are. That's not supposed to be public. And that's fairly innocuous stuff about what to pay them and how many to hire. It's not super interesting. And then we have the game stuff that's for upcoming stuff. So I'm not going to mention the stuff that's code named because we don't know if it's been canceled or not. And to be fair, we're not sure if some of these things are still, even the stuff I'm going to mention the names of, we don't know if these are in development or have been canceled either. So we have Resident Evil 8 village details, including full maps of some of the levels hand-drawn on paper, and their scans of that paper. We have Monster Hunter Rise coming to PC and some of the PC details.
I wouldn't be scrap surprised to see that one.
Yeah. We have the source code. Oh, wait. We also have the source code for Resident Evil Umbrella Chronicles. We have Resident Evil 4 VR.
Okay,
yeah.
But why?
I don't know how or why, but that's what it is. I'm going to sneeze really bad in a second. Hang on.
I mean, does anyone actually want virtual reality squeaky Napoleon? Bless you.
Wow, that was an interesting noise.
It was a big one building for a while. We got details on Monster Hunter Stories 2.
Yeah, I think we already know pretty much all we need to know on that game.
We got new Ace Attorney DGS compilations. That's the Miles Edgeworth acronym they used.
Yep.
For Switch and PS4 that are planned or were planned. Let's see. Stadia paid Capcom $10 million USD to put RE7 and 8 on the platform. Sony paid $5 million USD for VR Time DLC demo exclusivity for Resident Evil 7 and 8. Let's see. And we have the two codename things, which we don't have a whole lot of info on. It's just a bunch of info pages on generic ideas of what they were, or are. Could be either. New shooter multiplayer game titled Shield, geared towards streamers. Okay. And new Switch exclusive IP under the codename Guillotine. That's about all we know about them.
I see.
There are many documents that go into a bit more detail, but there are too many here for me to have the time to fish through all of them.
Yeah.
So, and now we get to the story itself at the end of the big frontline post. Capcom Ltd. announced that it has been the victim of a customized ransomware attack following unauthorized access to its network and has verified that some personal information maintained by Capcom Group has been compromised. Further, the company has also stated that it has confirmed the possibility of additional personnel and corporate information may have been compromised in this attack, which is listed in another section of this document. At present, the content development and business are operating without impediment, but all their stuff's been stolen, and there's copies of it floating around. Capcom offers its sincerest apologies for any complications and concerns this may bring to its potentially impacted customers, i.e. the people that had their personal information on Capcom servers. As well as its many stakeholders. As there is an ongoing investigation in place, it is possible that new facts may come to light going forward. Below is a general summary, and it's more reference document crap. None of the at-risk data contains credit card information, so that's good. All online transactions are handled by third-party service providers such as Sony, Microsoft, Steam, etc. So Capcom does not maintain any such information internally. That's good to take their word at.
That's very
Hopefully.
good.
I hope. Please don't be lying, Capcom. I will go back to using you as a verb. Additionally, it is safe for Capcom customers or others to connect to play games through online services and access to its websites. Information obtained through your gamer handle and such Your PSN ID is not recorded on the Capcom servers. If you have any personal information listed there, it is not compromised. So if you logged in with your Sony ID to the Devil May Cry 5 servers, they don't have anything on there, is what that means. It didn't pull anything from your PSN account other than your username. Capcom would like to once again would once again like to reiterate its deepest apologies for any complications occurred. Blah 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 blah. Yeah. So that is the breakdown of it from the forums.
Right.
So that's a lot to take in.
It is, especially if you want to go into the granular detail, but we don't.
No. There isn't anything particularly that's been leaked so far that is major, like breaking. We don't have enough details on anything. It is concerning that they have all this paused crap and it's coded as confidential level 3, whatever that means, at the top in big red letters with a logo and everything. See, DJ is not okay from Street Fighter 4.
The boxer?
Yeah.
What's not okay about him?
Click on live show chat. I've got it posted.
Oh boy. I mean,
they're saying he's DJ, but he's apparently a caricature of black people. Although I know Jamaican people that act like that and look like that. You're disenfranchising them, Capcom.
I don't know how seriously this sort of stuff is taken by them.
It could have been pulled from the equivalent of a racial diversity training meeting that some third party stuck on their servers.
Well, yeah,
for all we know,
there are probably places where those things are mandatory.
Yeah,
and if Joe Biden becomes the president, they will probably be made mandatory across the United States, and then that will set the tone for them to become mandatory internationally. So people probably will be wanting to get one of these programs made before they become something that people can charge a premium for. Because nobody likes hiring diversity consultants.
No, even though they do just tend to insinuate their way into people's businesses.
Yeah, yep. Well, I mean, that's why they want to work hand in hand with the state, so that they can make their own employment mandatory.
Yep. And for Capcom employees, it's worth noting their personal information was so compromised, and Capcom required them to give so much information up front that they had their passports on this thing.
Oh, that's worrying.
So, Capcom employees are sweating bullets right now, I bet.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, that's a whole lot of information from Capcom employees. That's a big old list of stuff that all employees had stolen.
Yep, ransomware is not good. Try not to get caught by it, especially if you are a large company with lots of sensitive information. But yeah, so there's no way of knowing how much of this stuff is still current information. This could all have been, the slate of projects as of, months and months ago, and a whole bunch of it has been cancelled now and rearranged. And I mean, what really are the odds that anybody's going to dump a huge amount of money into another battle royale at this stage?
Pretty
with
low.
The way things currently are.
Yeah.
Right, that was on there too, wasn't it? I think it's on a later post on the thread I'm looking at.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like a very plausible thing in a lot of ways, because it's a really, really glutted market with not really a lot of ongoing interest. People who are into that are already content with PUBG and whatever the other one was, the even more popular one. These games have such little, weight and presence in my mind that I can't remember what they're called half the time. They're just
you're thinking of Fortnite.
Yeah. They're gaming grey paste, basically.
They are.
They're games for normies.
Games for the normies and the streamers and the pseudo normies that follow the streamers.
Games for baby.
Yeah, basically. We're real gamers.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of this pos stuff got axed.
It is probably just a diversity seminar that they called in to do a thing because they were mandated to do it somewhere, and they just left it on the server.
Yeah. So given that, given they're a Japanese company,
Capcom does not actually follow any of the directives that are listed in that thing.
Mm-hmm.
They make DJ, and they make DJ exaggerated. They put the princess in the tower. They do not make gender equal options. See Monster Hunter World, where the girls have whole boy and the guys have totally covered bodies. They do not adhere to any of this pause crap in their actual game.
Yeah.
Although, seeing the words Penny and Vag written on a Capcom slideshow is hilarious.
I've been trying to avoid mentally allowing myself to focus on that because it's too bizarre.
It makes me doubt how authentic that is.
Well, we know all this is authentic because they did leak the source code for 2 games.
Yeah.
And that had not been released to the public before. Somebody, I think, was working on decrypting Devil May Cry 2 for funsies, but he never finished.
I've never seen any information suggesting that these things are cohesive info dumps, though. Just because this new information is now circulating doesn't mean it all comes from the same source.
Yeah.
So parts of it can be true and other parts not true. That is entirely reasonable to suppose.
Yep.
Yeah. Although the slide for game journalist mode is hilarious, too.
If that was real, it would be very telling, but it reads like satire.
It does, but I could totally believe somebody at a company would write this in 2020.
Well, the thing is that I've seen that idea floated in the past in other places.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't seem remotely unreasonable to me.
Yeah, it's 2020. So
it is current year.
Yeah.
So yeah,
the year is the current year. Very much.
It is definitely current year.
I think 2020 needs to be the point we stop current year. We just need to use it as a benchmark.
Yeah, because you're not going to surpass it very quickly under a lot of different measures.
It will not be current year anymore. It will be post 2020.
Yes, after the unpleasantness.
We live in a post 2020 world.
Yeah, which is good because, people saying, come on, it's current year, it has always been an extremely weak argument.
Yeah.
But none of those people understand as being weak.
Yeah, it's the argument you say when you have nothing else to say.
Well, it's the argument. No, it's not necessarily the case because there are a lot of people who believe it's a compelling argument.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a Hegelian argument about the arc of history, basically. The idea that you should believe that as time goes on, things always get better by definition.
Yeah. And it's used as a hand wave to dismiss whatever point is brought up.
It's not what I'm arguing is that that's not the case. I'm arguing that they actually think that that's a central point. That because the time was then and is now is inherently superior to then by merit of being now. This is an actual position, strongly held by many people, that by merit of being more now, it is better.
Yeah.
I'm not arguing that it's a good idea, but this is a very, very prominent idea in certain schools of philosophy, particularly the ones which eventually got plagiarized by Marx. You don't think he actually came up with anything himself, do you?
He came up with his beard. That's about it.
No, I think those were fashionable at the time.
That's actually true. So, yeah. The beard was a ripoff.
Yep. So, yeah, that's Capcom, I think. Unless y'all got anything else to rail on about it.
Not really. I don't think we can really assign much, value to this because even if it was true when it came out, there's no reason to believe it will remain true. It's just, here is a snapshot of something that Capcom was thinking at one point in time, and that will change, as all things change with the passage of time.
But in a dry news week, it's
that's all we got, man.
It's something to put on the plate. Normally we would wait for more info on something like this, but we just ain't got nothing, man. Unless you want to talk about boobies in Azure Lane or Latinx on Steam.
Latinx
No.
is not a word. It's not a word, and I don't think that there are any people with that particular ethnic makeup who think it's a word.
Well, it's a made up ethnicity, so
Yeah, like,
The-
what is it? What is it that really binds that group together? It's like how people think that white is a race.
yeah.
It's like in what world is white a race?
I'm here to tell you, I am totally like culturally quite a bit different from the people in the Pacific Ocean that I do a show with, and we're all Paul's not white; he's half white. But like me and Fern, Australia and the South USA
No,
could
no,
not be
no.
any different.
You've
And
forgotten that the rules have changed. Asians are now white. Remember?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So, and
Yeah,
we
I thank you not to cheat me of my white privilege heritage.
you would think that, there'd be a difference between Trip on the Barbie and deep frying everything in gravy with cultures here. No. Just you're all white.
Yeah.
And what level of swarthiness or brownness does make you Latinx anyway?
Whatever that is.
And that's something that I think is actually amusing in a sort of very dark and twisted way, is that these race hustlers in the modern era have actually found a way to be more degenerate than like Nazi race hustlers, because at least the Nazis had theories about eugenics. Like they actually thought that, oh well, there's actually something fundamental about what makes you the master race or not, and you can determine this through quack science. Whereas these modern race hustlers, it's actually literally just about what color your skin is, because you count as white if you have like all African heritage, but you're an albino, so you pass as white. They would consider that you being legitimately white, and I think that that's really funny how weak and empty their way of thinking is.
So my mother gets a pretty mean suntan and does not sunburn just naturally. What does that make her? Like constantly in flux?
Yeah, this is an argument that's going nowhere good fast.
We don't understand their logic. We're
There
trying
isn't
to parse
any.
Apparently there's sufficient logic for Steam to base a major campaign on it,
But yeah.
because that was what this is about. This is about Steam adopting this way of thinking and having a games festival focused on promoting particular games because of the skin color of the people involved in producing them.
Incredibly racist stuff. Also, I've only heard it called Latinx by normal people, but I must use the Michael Knowles pronunciation because I think it's hilarious.
Well, that's phonetically what it says, Latinx, because they have to, they have to impose from outside their bizarre standards on the natural grammar of someone else's language.
Now, as somebody that knows quite a few Mexicans, and not Spanish people, not Latin people, Mexicans, who are here both legally and illegally, they all hate Latinx.
It's because it reeks of like cringy urban liberal.
Like Latino or Latina, if it's a girl, is part of the language. It's part of what makes them Spanish, or comes from their language and their culture. Like,
although I have my own doubts about the veracity of that as a classification. That seems like it was something that was imposed from the outside as well, probably quite a long time ago.
Yeah, but it's part of their cultural identity now and part of their language. You don't get to put Latinx in there as a reason to throw more people into the bucket and totally gender neutralify a gendered language. Newsflash, liberals. Most of the languages that are used commonly in Europe and in Latin America are gendered languages. Every single noun has a gender. And it's either male or female. And you can't change that.
Well,
Biblioteca is always feminine.
There are neuter words.
There are, yes, but they usually, yes, there are some that are neutral, but there are far fewer than gendered ones.
That's not necessarily the case. That varies depending on language. There are some languages that have it divided roughly evenly between the three.
Yeah, but But the point is that the word has a gender or lack of gender, and that is immutable. You
In
can't
fact, that's pretty much what gender actually means. Gender is a grammatical term. It has been adopted for other uses by other people, but it is a grammatical term at its root.
In fact, you break conjugation in Spanish completely if you take the gender away from nouns. You cannot conjugate. The sentences don't work.
But none of the people who imposed this mystery word, Latinx, know anything about the Spanish language. That's why they got the cojones to try and impose this on people to begin with. Not a single one of them speaks Spanish. I feel bad for Fern. He's probably just banging his head against his desk right now.
You have no idea.
I mean, it's not like we're saying anything controversial. In fact, we're in support of the Latin people here.
Well,
who would be grouped into this grouping Latinx.
Fern, if you don't like it, you can blame Steam. I didn't ask them to have a Latinx festival.
Honestly, I just saw it there and I didn't think anything further of it. I thought it was just a games festival or a games conference held in Mexico or something, and didn't think anything further of it.
No, it's about promoting games by people who have a specific ethnicity. Because they look down on them. They say that they're not good enough to get recognition on their own merits, so we need to promote them. That's the logic here. It's the bigotry of low expectations.
Mm.
Like, there are tons of people who played and enjoyed Valhalla. They don't need to get special recognition because of their ethnic makeup.
Yeah, I don't think the makeup of the developers or the characters in that game has any bearing on how good of a game it is.
Mm-hmm.
So yes. Why do you make me defend a group of people who I'm constantly arguing with every time I need to hire people to build a wall? Why are you doing this?
Oh, jeez.
Well, when you need landscaping done, they're always available.
I have a landscaper named Problemo.
What now?
My landscaper's name is Problemo. He is totally not legal because I have to pay him in cash, and he does half of the artwork for me.
Oh boy! So,
and he thinks Latinx is the dumbest thing he's ever heard. Problemo is also not his real name, but he runs with it.
Okay, and with that note, we should probably actually wrap up because I'm getting doggo noises outside.
No, he's actually trying to forestall us ushering in the political apocalypse somehow.
Also that.
I don't think we have to worry because as long as we pay them $2.50 an hour, they'll just leave us alone. Oh.
So when you're trying to claim the moral high ground, this is how you kick it out from under yourself.
Oh yeah, I had to be sure that I got full Southern racism just jammed right up the show's butt.
Right, so can we end my suffering, please?
I disavow.
I don't. I fully endorse.
I disavow. I disavow. I disavow Fern's ideas that we should prevent him from suffering.
Oh. Well, gee, thanks.
Oh, boy. I love your Problemo. If you happen to listen to this show ever.
Good grief.
He is a really nice guy. Anyway, no email topic of the week because I get the feeling that'll go badly. Closing comments go.
Why do I do this to myself?
I don't know. You've signed up to this and, 9 years later you're still here.
Well, it wasn't so much I got signed up. It was Ari knocking on my metaphorical door and saying, "Hey, Fern, I got an idea."
Yeah, we were on Minecraft and I was just like, Fern, listen to this. I was really, really drunk at the time too.
Yes, you were.
One of these days, if Fern is really unlucky, one of these days Serathus will get his show about race realism.
Okay, take us out. Please.
For our final show, including a live rendition from at least two of the show hosts of Jimmy Rebel. All right, folks. We'll see you next week with maybe less racism. Sayonara. Bye-bye.